At Awesemo.com, we have a breakout player defined as an established high-level player who will exceed his prior performance and expectations as measured by average draft position going into the season. So forgive me if I'm breaking the rules or bending the rules a little bit here, because not everybody on this list is already an established high-level player. Not all of them have even played a full season at the NFL level, but all of them, in my opinion at least, are in spots to absolutely crush their ADP and put you in that money come December. So I'm Dave Lockran from Awesemo.com. Let's talk about it. My favorite later round breakouts, talking really 10th round or later, that I think can crush for you this season. If you like this content, hit that thumbs up. Helps me out in a huge way. And subscribe to the channel as well. Let's get started. Darnell Mooney didn't get a ton of hype during his rookie season, but that was mostly because of players like Justin Jefferson, Chase Claypool, and CeeDee Lamb having huge games and making draw-dropping plays each week. Even T. Higgins was on pace for a big year before Joe Burrow went down. But Mooney definitely wasn't bad, finishing with 61 receptions for 631 yards and 4 touchdowns on 98 targets, all of which finished second at his position in Chicago behind Allen Robinson. You'd like to see him improve on a 62% reception rate, sure, but that's what happens when your quarterbacks are Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles. Just to expand on that a little, here's an insane stat to illustrate just how bad Chicago quarterbacks were on deep attempts last year. Mooney was 15th in the entire league on targets of 20-plus yards, but 55th in receptions on those same plays. And according to PFF, none of those misses were drops on Mooney's part. 4 receptions on 23 targets is unacceptable. And while 7 of them were contested balls, of which Mooney only came down with 2, there's still no way we shouldn't be feeling better about his outlook for 2021, especially when Justin Fields takes over. That's the thing, though. Andy Dalton is not someone who's going to take Mooney's deep game to the next level, but Fields absolutely can. This could become a deadly connection, especially considering how often Mooney was getting open last year, only to have balls thrown at his feet or 10 rows up into empty seats. You're getting him at an ADP of 91 on Underdog, but in home leagues, you'll be able to pull Mooney way later. We're talking straight into the double-digit rounds. And late in the season, when we assume that Fields will already have been installed as the starter for quite some time now, it's going to be perfect to have Mooney on your roster. Irv Smith is coming into what many like to consider the make-or-break year for tight ends. He's posted modest production through his first 2 seasons with the Vikings, but could be primed for a breakout in 2021. Here's why. Kyle Rudolph is finally out of Minnesota, which is what makes Smith most appealing. Rudolph played more snaps than Smith in almost every game he was healthy, but Tyler Conklin is the only tight end behind him now. And while Smith's yardage totals weren't crazy in the 4 games Rudolph missed to close out the season, he did score 3 touchdowns on 6 red zone targets, which was tied for most in football at his position over that span. He was also on the field for 83% of snaps over the final 3 weeks, so there's reason to believe Smith's role could expand significantly in year 3. I'm definitely not enamored with the fact that Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook are on this offense when it comes to Smith's projected workload, but he should definitely be the number 3 option in the passing game and potentially a lot more than that inside the red zone, which is exactly what we're looking for when targeting late-round tight ends, touchdown upside. And here's just one example of what Smith is capable of doing on end zone targets when they're contested. Smith has been fantastic in camp, both as a receiver and a blocker, which is what he'll need to stay on the field and make an impact. At an ADP of 127 and the 12th tight end off the board, you've got to feel good about getting him there, even if he hasn't quite proven yet that he can be that alpha tight end in this league. I don't think we need to be extremely excited about anyone on the Saints roster outside of Alvin Kamara, but Marquez Callaway deserves some attention based on his late-round ADP.
And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. It is Sunday, August 22nd. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by T. McBee, Terry McBride, and we are going to give you an 8-game breakdown for today's slate. It was supposed to be 10. We've lost 2 games already, so we're slowly but surely trimming this bad boy. First and foremost, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. 2 big things that I want to say right out of the gate. Maybe this will help for the likes. Happy birthday to my dad, not Terry in this particular case, because I know how YouTube chat is going to react to this, but my actual father. Happy birthday to him today. And 3 years ago today, the official announcement, FanVice to Awesemo. So 3-year anniversary of that being an official statement per my time hop from earlier today. So, wow, that was a fast 3 years. Terry, what's going on?
Dude, that flew by. 3 years. Oh my God. I remember the day that got announced. I wasn't working for the site yet, but wow, that's time absolutely flies, especially with this lockdown and everything. My God, that really, and hey, happy birthday to your dad / not me / me, I guess, in the chat, but happy birthday to your old man. That's great.
3 years young. There we go.
Excellent.
Give me a second there.
Got a few on me for anybody in chat.
Well, we're going to have plenty of time to get through 8 games. 10 would have been perfect if I'm being perfect. Like that would have been good. 10 fills an hour pretty well. 8, we're going to have some time to take a lot of questions towards the end. We have live before lock coming up after this, but I'm ready to dive in if you are. I got to run a FanDuel crunch, and that's like the only thing that I have to worry about right now. We have a ton of lineups already in, so we can make some like pretty good decisions. Ownership's fun. Pitching stinks today.
Yeah, pitching stinks is definitely the theme of this one. I mean, when you load everything up and Adam Wainwright pops to the top of the board, I know you were saying similar in Slack earlier, and I said similar in my article when I was writing it up. That's a major indicator that you're dealing with a pretty lousy pitching slate. So, yeah. I mean, the top options are shaky at best, and it gets scary after that. So it's going to be an interesting day.
All right, well, let's talk through it now. And again, hit that thumbs up as you walk in the door virtually, I might add. Orioles and Braves. 4.3 run implied total for the Orioles, 5.3 for the Braves. It's a 60% chance to win for Atlanta. John Means on the hill for Baltimore. Touki Toussaint going for Atlanta. And no real ownership coming to these guys. Means is essentially unowned. Toussaint is at 6% on DraftKings. He's at 2% on FanDuel. I think he's probably going a little underrepresented here, but I don't have like a huge stance, and I'm pretty indifferent in Means at 8,900. How are you managing the pitching here?
Yeah, so I'm basically going to allow, I think, pretty much everybody on the slate. I might take like Drew Hutchison off. I might take, let's say, like Chris Archer out because I don't think he's going to give us any innings. But for the most part, guys like Toussaint, guys like Means, I'm going to leave them in and kind of take what I get, even though they don't project particularly well. This spot projects really well for offense for me. In my model, this is popping on both sides of the game. A lot of home run upside. A lot of MLB DFS point scoring upside from sequential hitting, from run creation. So for me, this is one where I expect I'll have more of the bats on both ends. But I respect Toussaint. I think he's a pretty good young pitcher who's still finding his way in terms of some of the contact metrics. But a 25% strikeout rate can't be ignored on this slate. It's one of the higher marks on the slate. 33 2/3 innings. It's a small sample, but he's that kind of pitcher, right? So we know that he's a quality prospect, quality kid coming up. 4.23 xFIP is fine over that size sample. The concern for Toussaint comes around to 8.9% barrel ball rate and a 48.9% hard hit rate with a 92-mile-an-hour average exit velo. That's what's creating the home run upside for the Orioles. I ended up writing about them. I like that Orioles stack, but for me, that's a both sideser. And then on Means, I don't tend to get to John Means all that much. I tend to think he's just more, he gets by on a lot of luck throughout the course of his career. His batting average on balls in play was in the 180s through most of the season. It's up in, I think it was like the 220s when I checked earlier now. So he's actually losing a little bit of his luck. Now he's around his career averages, but he's just not really a pitcher for me that much. I love the Braves offense on most days, and they profile really well here for me. But again, another guy, 23% strikeout rate over 102 innings. That's one of the better marks on the board today, 4.2% walk rate. So he's at least in play, but I prefer Toussaint, and I prefer the bats on both sides.
So I had Toussaint show up in 11% of my sims at 6% ownership. That makes me interested. Like I would certainly be happy to get there. I don't know if he becomes a total priority. There are a lot of guys in that same range. I have Sandy and Vladimir Gutierrez, Adrian Hauser, Ronaldo Lopez, Carlos Hernandez. I have all of those guys as relatively similar. I guess we'll get to Hernandez in a bit because we're going to have to dig into that one. But I'm with you on bats, but I'm pretty interested in this Braves side. I have them as my number 2 overall stack. I actually have them slightly under-owned. In particular, it doesn't look like anybody's going to Freddie Freeman, probably because of that lefty-lefty matchup. So I think given where I have the Braves, to me, it's a 2-horse race. I want to see where we have the top. Yeah, 2-horse race with Atlanta and Toronto. Toronto pulling all of the ownership. Looks like I'm going to be in the same sort of realm as our top stack tool. I think Atlanta and Toronto are the 2 best options. I don't think Atlanta is. I think Atlanta is the best option for large field GPPs. I think Toronto is massively overowned. That's what we're seeing in the top stacks tool. So talk to me about the Atlanta Braves to start.
Yeah, Braves shot to the top of my power index, which is just the summary of my home run model. I give the top 6 and the full lineup the average home run rating. They were at the top. The full lineup had a 13.98 in my model. Over 10 is an above average chance at a home run. So if the entire lineup is trending over that, you can kind of get a feel for where I'm seeing the power in my model here. So I agree with everything you just said. I love the Braves lineup up and down. I think the lefties are going under-owned. John Means not a guy who scares me in a lefty-lefty matchup. Freddie Freeman, yeah, he loses some of his quality in his career. 269, 350, 438 with a 170 ISO. Still creates runs 14% better than average against left-handed pitching for his entire career. The strikeouts are inflated a little bit against lefties. He's worse against lefties, but he's still an above average player. So there's nothing wrong with him, including him in stacks when he's under-owned like this. Jock Peterson at the bottom of the Braves lineup, really interesting this season. He's a guy we've seen throughout his entire career, totally unable to hit left-handed pitching, and he's always been a power hitter. This season, he's gone from a power hitter to just becoming like a slap hitter, contact hitter against lefties, and it's worked for him. He's actually got a decent triple slash against lefties. He's shown no power whatsoever, but he's creating runs above the average last I checked. I'm pulling it up now as I'm talking it through. He created runs above the average for the season, and he's sitting at a 281, 360, 404. The ISO is down to 124 compared to a 205 against righties, so he doesn't have any power, but he's getting on base. He's creating runs against lefties out of nowhere. So I think Jock's in play from the bottom of the lineup, and then you get all the power in the middle of this lineup. You get Ozzie Albies at the top of it, Jorge Soler, Austin Riley, Dansby Swanson, Adam Duvall. I'll take any one of those guys for a home run today. So I really like this stack.
Perfect. KJ in chat mentioned it. Weather is iffy in Baltimore. Definitely something you want to keep your eye on throughout the rest of this show and into live before lock. But if it looks like this one can play, you're going to want to get a piece of the Braves because I think they're the best option you can get to. You mentioned wanting to get to the Orioles. I'm curious to hear your thoughts here.
Yeah, I wrote them up in the tournament strategy article today. So I go hitter by hitter through the projected lineup, which I still don't think we have confirmed, but getting similar marks in terms of the power upside. And I mentioned it's really just targeting that hard hit rate from Tukey, the 14.3 degree average launch angle that goes alongside that 8.9 degree percent barrel rate, 48.9% hard hit, and 92 miles an hour of average exit velo. There are some significant home run hitters in this lineup. And I'm thinking about guys like Trey Mancini, Ryan Mountcastle, to a degree Cedric Mullins, to a degree Anthony Santander. There's a lot of upside in those guys for home run power. It gets a little thinner on the back end, although I do think Ramon Urias is a little bit underrated. 42.4% hard hit rate, 11.8% barrel rate for him on the season. 7 home runs, so 146 ISO isn't exactly translating that into home run upside, but he's at a 263, 336, 409, creates runs 8% better than average. Nobody's really going to be on him at second base for 2,200 on FanDuel, second and third base for 3,100 on DK. I just think they're low owned, they're affordable, they make a lot of things work, and I think they've got upside in this spot. Could I see Toussaint come through here and just cruise through them a few times, get through the lineup, 2.5 times, put up a handful of strikeouts and have them not damage him? Absolutely. He's got the talent to do that. He's got the talent to even put up an upside start against this team. But I think it's equally on the board that they could have a nice day, and we could just see a lot of balls flying out of Camden on both sides of this one.
I have them 10th overall, basically neutrally owned. I would like to see a little bit more ownership coming to Toussaint in order for me to get to Baltimore. I think I'm just going to have a couple teams that end up ahead of them, but I do like that power potential at the top. Toussaint over the past 2 seasons, 222 X ISO to lefties, 193 to righties. So he has no problem giving up power to anybody. Makes it kind of appealing in a GPP.
Yeah, and good pair of switch hitters up there. If it's Mullins and Santander hitting 1 and 3 or wherever Santander lands, so you get a couple matchup proof guys. If DJ Stewart's in there, you get a solid power hitting lefty. If it's Austin Hayes, I actually prefer him as a general hitter. But yeah, I agree. I actually was hoping that Toussaint would get a little bit more ownership, and we might see that popularity tick up because people do know about him. They do know that he's a good young pitcher, prospect pedigree, and he's more affordable than some of these guys in like the 9,000 range. I think people would rather get Tuki at 8,500, let's say, than like Vladimir Gutierrez, even though it's a better matchup probably for Gutierrez at 8,700. Yeah. I think they just are more familiar with Tuki, a little bit safer with Tuki. So I expect his ownership will tick up a little bit.
All righty. Anything else you want to touch on, Orioles or Braves?
I think we covered that one up and down.
I agree. This one we're going to have to cover as well. Blue Jays and Tigers, lots to cover here. 6-run implied total for the Jays, 4.1 for the Tigers. Steven Matz, Drew Hutchison. Let's start here. Steven Matz, 40% owned on DraftKings at 8,200, 26% owned at 8K on FanDuel. I had him at 31% on DK, so I think that this ownership is largely correct. I had him at 22% on FanDuel. So I don't have much else to add. This isn't a very good Tigers lineup. I don't like going to Matz, but given the run line that we've got here, given the rest of the setup, given the Tigers lineup, this ownership seems fine to me. What do you want to do with Matz?
So this isn't a good Tigers baseball team. This is a team I've talked shit about all year long, and I said it the other day when I actually was kind of on this stack in a contrarian spot against Robbie Ray, and I'll say it again. I do not think this is a good baseball team. With that said, they're currently sitting – they've fallen a couple spots since the other day when they were in 4th. They're currently sitting 6th in baseball with a collective 110 WRC plus against left-handed pitching. So they're 10% better than average creating runs against lefties, surprisingly, out of nowhere. They also strike out 25.4% of the time against lefties, which is one of the worst marks in the league. 3.57% home run rate, a little bit below average, 165 team ISO, right around the average. So they create runs. They don't hit, well, they hit for like average power and they strike out too much. So again, bad baseball team. But I think there's enough there to not really trust Steven Matz here, a pitcher that I don't really trust to begin with. Coming in 23.3% strikeout rate over 106 innings, one of the better marks again on the board for this slate, just a lot of low strikeout rate guys. So he's in play and certainly could have an upside start here, one of the better starts of the day. But overall, 3.86 xFIP, 1.39 whip, puts too many guys on base. 6.9% barrel ball rate, 36.5% hard hit, 87.4 miles an hour average exit velo. Those are all fine contact metrics, but they're not special by any means. So he's not doing anything to really cap the upside on the other side. So I think the Tigers are at least reasonably in play. They're not like shooting through the roof for me by any means, but as an under-owned stack, I could see getting a little bit over the field on the Tigers and coming in well under the field on Steven Matz, who's a pitcher who, like I said, I don't generally trust. He projects okay for me. He's like my 4th or 5th projected starter, but typically a guy going up against this Tigers team is going to get a better pop than that in my model. So if the entire field is going to be on Steven Matz here, I'm happy to go in other directions.
So I think that having something in that like 30 to 35% range for Matz works, but I'm with you. I want to be on this opposite side and have the Tigers. I have the Tigers ranked 11th overall, but I have the separation between them and the Orioles as basically the same sort of stack. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, let's see. I can make a case that like 7 different teams, Cubs, Rays, Orioles, Tigers, Reds, Nats, and White Sox are all basically the same for me. But I do have the Tigers as my 4th best leverage opportunity. And that's not even taking into account Steven Matz's ownership. That's just simply against their own personal ownership. Mm-hmm. So I actually really like the idea of going to the Tigers in a larger field GPP. 1, because of the Matz leverage. 2, just simple leverage for the Tigers being what I consider to be unowned. It's not going to happen frequently, but this feels like a really nice spot to have a little bit of both sides.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, when I say I'm going to be under the field on Matz, I don't mean I'm taking him off the board by any means, but if he's at 26% ownership on FanDuel, I'm happy to be, 10, 12, 15, somewhere in that range.
Sure.
And comfortably, honestly, even if I'm a little bit lower, especially if I'm loading up on some Tigers on the other side. And with the Tigers ownership, yeah, you can exploit that just on its own, leaving the Matz ownership out, like you said, with all of these guys on this team in the single digits, everybody below 5% on both sites. There's upside there. With that run creation, Mark, we're talking about when we compare them to the Orioles, we're talking about a team in their split that creates runs 10% better than average, like I said, as compared to a team in their split against a righty that creates runs 8% worse than the average. Orioles have a little bit, actually a very similar home run rate, 3.53% home run rate in their split, a 163 ISO compared to a 165. 23.5% strikeout rate is a little bit better. So the Orioles do a little bit better not striking out, but they create runs worse, and they both hit for power about the same. So with that being equal, less ownership here, it's definitely a strong spot when you're attacking that much of the field with the ownership on the other side on the pitcher.
Speaking of ownership on the other side, Blue Jays bats, they are my number one stack overall. They are dead last in leverage. This jives with the top stack tool, where they are basically owned twice as much as their odds of the top stack. I can't justify this team at all as a primary stack, given this current ownership. Just doesn't seem to be a place I want to go. To me, these guys are cash game plays and filler for the rest of my stacks, but this is not they are the best team, but they are a very difficult leverage stack.
Yeah, throwing him up against Drew Hutchison, kind of unfair numbers coming because it's in a 1 2/3 inning sample, 7.7% strikeout rate for Hutchison in that one start. Didn't go well for him that inning and 2/3. Negative 26.5 in my BBB minus K, which is a metric that's supposed to be measuring run creation and sequential hitting metrics. We'll forgive him for that, but yeah, Hutchison not going to be long for this game. Blue Jays, massive upside for power, run creation, sequential hitting, but good luck rostering them in any kind of unique combinations. It's there if you want to, sit there and just mix and match them with some of the lowest owned hitters. And you're talking about maybe getting to, like a 4-man with a bunch of one-offs, or a 4-2 with several one-offs. And even then, it's still difficult. You've got the top end of this lineup all in the 30% range plus. I don't love it. And then, Kevin Smith, Alejandro Kirk, not the greatest options in the 6 and the 9 spot. So you've really got Lourdes Gurriel, Randall Grichuk, and Corey Dickerson to do some of the ownership offsetting. And all of those guys are at least in the mid-teens. Although I do like Corey Dickerson there hitting 5th at 18% on FanDuel. That's kind of interesting.
Corey Dickerson is the only guy that doesn't show up as like shockingly over-owned for me. So I'm happy to go there as well. But I mean, these guys are pulling just crazy amounts of ownership. To me, it's massively too high. Like, I have them as the top stack 15% of the time, getting 25% of the ownership. We have it at 14% on the site, 28% ownership. I mean, it's just a ton. So buyer beware here, and be careful. Honestly, the reason that it's even more interesting to me is that I don't think that there are a lot of options where if you do have the Blue Jays, you can be different pitching. Like, Framber Valdez is already around 30% owned. Wainwright's at 30. Matz is at 40. We've got Carlos Hernandez at 38. But I don't really see a lot of guys that I think should be owned a lot more that aren't getting that ownership. So you're already not different with pitching, most likely. Then you're getting to the Jays. You're just going to have a very similar lineup. I think it's a lot easier to play the chalk in pitching today and go to a Braves stack with a one-off Blue Jays bat and try to hope that the Blue Jays aren't the team that scores 15 today.
Yeah, and there's just something to be said for not walking yourself down that similar construction path and, getting to a point where even if you realize it, right, halfway through building your lineup, if you say, oh, geez, this is going to be chalky as hell, there's going to be 30 people with this lineup, let me make a few pivots. Now you're deliberately putting worse plays than originally intended into your lineup. At a certain point, there's a cost benefit there that just completely goes in the wrong direction, and you're just making bad plays. So yeah, it makes a ton of sense to just look elsewhere today, despite how awesome this team looks. I mean, if they go out and score 15 runs, I wouldn't be surprised.
Is there anything else you want to touch on this game? Blue Jays side, Tiger side? My
home run pick comes from this game.
Okay.
Should I spoil it or should I save it for later? Are we going to do them or should I just throw it out there?
We'll do them later. We'll save it for later. Don't make people stick around.
All right. It's a big one. So stick around, everybody. Hit that thumbs up. We don't have enough thumbs.
Guerrero Jr., right?
Of course. Every day.
Yeah.
It's worked out really well.
Absolutely. All right. Schedule for the rest of today. We've got one. MLB Live Before Lock coming up immediately after this. Eric and Gundacker are going to break it all down, take you guys up to 1 o'clock. And then that's it for live content for the rest of Sunday. But we will be back big time tomorrow, including me starting the day doing a NFL underdog best ball draft using the draft wingman. So make sure everybody's watching that bad boy. We're going to be getting into a draft tomorrow, like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I don't know. More news to follow, but that will be happening. And free content for today. Sorry, folks. It's Sunday. None. You don't get any. Free stuff is every other day except for Sunday. So sorry, guys, no free content for today. But we do have Reds and Marlins, 4.5 run implied total for the Reds, 4 for the Marlins. Vladimir Gutierrez and Sandy Alcantara. Alcantara at 10% ownership on DK. I think it should be a little higher. Just 3% on FanDuel. Seems about right. Gutierrez, though, 5% owned on DraftKings. I think it should be a bit higher, and I think he stinks. It should be like 7% on FanDuel. We only have him at 2%. I didn't expect this, but I actually have the Marlins like wildly underrepresented from a run total perspective. I actually think that they like a bet on the Marlins is my favorite thing that you can do today, given where the line is, given where I actually have them coming out. But we'll start on pitching first, since we don't need to necessarily talk about my sports betting picks for this one. Where do you want to start? Who do you prefer right now, Gutierrez or Sandy Alcantara?
Boy, that's tough because I hate the matchup for Alcantara. And the pronunciation gods are going to get us because somebody just converted me to Alcantara and you just switched me right back to Alcantara.
No, so. It was probably Adam that converted you, at which point you should not listen to him.
I agree. I've been an Alcantara guy because there's an extra A in there.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. Worst matchup
By
for
the
him.
way, it is Alcantara as the pronunciation on Baseball Reference.
Thank you. All right, I'm sticking with that. See, that teaches me to listen to anybody else. Anyway, Alcantara is probably still my preferred guy out of this one, despite the better matchup going to Gutierrez. I just think Alcantara is a much, much better pitcher, and I think he's got a reasonable chance of getting through this Reds lineup a couple times, especially you get Jesse Winker not in the lineup, so you get one of their key power hitters out of there for the last couple weeks with his injury. It's not the greatest version of this Reds lineup. Jose Barrero at the bottom of the lineup, Shogo Akiyama in there today. So I can see Alcantara getting through this clean a couple times. 151 and a third for him. Another guy, good pitcher, but a 21.7% strikeout rate. We're just dealing with a lot of guys at and around the league average, a little bit below league average today. 12.5% swinging strike rate, though. The CSW is at 26.9, so he doesn't work in the zone that much, but he's good at inducing swinging strikes, which is a positive indicator, something you like to see. 5.3% barrel ball rate, 4.7 degree average launch angle, really good for keeping the ball in the park. I like him to cap the Reds offense, hopefully not allow any home runs, not allow too much sequential hitting or run creation if the walks don't get away from him. He's only a 7.1% walk rate, so I don't expect that. I think he's got a reasonable shot at giving us, a 30-ish point FanDuel start, which is around where I've got him projected. So he'd be my preference. I get it with Gutierrez on the other side. You're going up against a Miami lineup that is not very good, but there's a couple decent hitters in here with Jazz Chisholm, with Jesus Aguilar, with Jesus Sanchez in there now. Lewis Brinson and Isan Diaz, I think, are better than advertised, better than their reputations. So there's enough to make me not really want to go to Gutierrez in any big shares. He's a 17.8% strikeout rate on the season, 9.3% walks, way too many walks for that strikeout rate, 5.23%, 5.23 xFIP, 9.9% swinging strike rate, so not enough swinging strikes, not enough called plus swinging at 27.1, 9.1% barrel ball rate, 36.4% hard hit. There's a lot of indicators that say you're right about the Marlins, that there's some upside in that Marlins offense. As far as DFS goes, with the ownership shares on the Marlins in the mid-20s on some of the hitters that I named before, that would be the guys I want to get to. I don't know if I'm going to it for that, but I think you're right on the on terms of the bet and in terms of them being able to create some runs here. So I don't love the Gutierrez side.
Yeah, so I'm all over this in terms of different ways. I think Sandy's probably slightly underowned from a DFS perspective, but you're clearly getting there in the 10-15% range. I think I had Gutierrez show up in 18% of my sims, just 5% ownership. Doesn't make me feel great. If I look at our top pitchers tool, where the hell is he hiding? Okay, so same sort of scenario in our top pitchers tool, 16% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, just 6% ownership. So at the least, that's going in the right direction for me. But I actually have the Marlins as slight favorites in this game, which changes the scope of everything that I'm looking at. So I want to get to Sandy. I want to get to Vladimir Gutierrez. I want to bet on the Marlins. I don't want to roster the Marlins, however. They are my 6th best stack. They are 15th in leverage, which is one behind the massive, massive negative leverage score for the Blue Jays. So I think they're quite a bit over-owned. I can happily just not roster the Marlins in terms of any stacks and place a small bet on them. If they pop off, at least the bet wins. They are underdogs. It'll pay out pretty nicely. On the Red side, I have them 12th overall, 13th in leverage. I don't really want to attack Sandy because I actually think Sandy is a good pitcher, generally speaking. It's a good park setup for him. Sandy's not nearly as good on the road as he is at home. Shout out to Legalized for that one. Anyway, for me, summing it all up, I will roster both pitchers. I like Gutierrez and GPPs. Marlins bats are overowned, but you should bet on the Marlins in general.
I like it. That is one solid way to attack it. I have no idea what you're actually rooting for and all of that, but hey, I hope it comes
chaos. Extreme situations at that point in time.
There you go.
Extreme situations.
Yeah, big lot of runs and a Marlins victory. That works.
Yeah,
and yeah,
a lot of runs from the Marlins in like the 6th, 7th, and 8th inning. So Vladimir Gutierrez could have a decent score, but at 8K, you're going to need something better than that.
Yeah, I like that. That works. And yeah, he's at 8K. I think you're probably right. He's under-owned, even though I don't love the spot. I don't love the pitcher. What concerns me with him is, we've got the 15.2 degree average launch angle plays into home run trajectory pretty well. And in my BBB minus K, he's in a negative number, which is really concerning. That's where the low strikeout rate, the high walk rate, and the high barrel rate come in. So it's just about the sequential hitting, the run creation opportunities. But you're throwing that into a Marlins lineup that is sitting at a 131 collective ISO, a 2.72% home run rate, 24.5% strikeout rate, and an 83 WRC plus, 17% worse than average, creating runs against righties. So there's a lot of opportunity there for Gutierrez to get through clean. Maybe doesn't put up a huge DFS score, but he could easily sit these Marlins down a few times despite his ugly numbers.
Absolutely. This is a wild game. This is going to be a very important one for me as we move on. Anything else for Reds and Marlins?
No, normally I'd have some home run thoughts on some of the Reds, but it's really kind of suppressing it given the contact metrics for Alcantara. So moving on.
All righty. Moving on is right. Rays and White Sox. 4.7 run implied total for the Rays, 4.3 for the White Sox. It's Chris Archer, Ronaldo Lopez. Archer pulling 19% ownership on DraftKings right now, 10% on FanDuel, where he's just 6,500. Ronaldo Lopez not owned on DK, not owned on FanDuel. I guess let's start with Archer. I don't feel the same way as the ownership right now. I don't know how deep he's going to go into this game, and I don't really want to attack the White Sox.
Yeah, that ownership number really surprised me. I was kind of just writing off Archer as not going to pitch that long. I'm just pulling up what he's done in the minors real quick to see if he's gotten any extended run in the minors or anything this season. But yeah, he was not really on my board. So that ownership mark surprises me. Looks like pitching through July. Yeah, even in the minors through July, he was 3 innings here, three and 2/3 there, 8.1, 8 1/3 innings through all of July. Yeah, I'm not seeing where that's coming from. 4 2/3 in a start in August. Yeah, I do not think Archer's going to give you guys that kind of depth. I don't know where that ownership's coming from. The upside could certainly be there in terms of strikeouts, 28.6% strikeout rate over his 4 1/3 innings so far this season. That's one start and a relief appearance. 4 strikeouts and 2 1/3 in that one start. But yeah, I'm not doing it. Not for 7,900. If he was coming in at like 4,000 and change on the DK slate, that would be a game changer. That would be a different scenario. But at 7,900, he's at a regular pitcher price. I don't think we get the depth.
I'm with you. I'm at 6% on DraftKings, which I think seems about right in case everything pops correctly. 5% on FanDuel. The price tag really helps there on FanDuel. But I think that I'm more interested in Ronaldo Lopez. Talk me out of it.
So, yeah, I was writing about the Rays and I was looking for the right angles to go after Ronaldo. And look, over 25 innings this year, he's found his form a little bit. 28.9% strikeout rate, 3.71 xFIP, 0.72 whip. Not a Ronaldo number there. 7.8% walks are still there, but he's inducing 11.7% swinging strikes. 8.8% barrel ball rate, 15.3 degree average launch angle, play into home run trajectory a little bit there, but limits hard hit so far, 35.1%, 89.8 mile an hour average exit velo. That's all playing into massive, massive power numbers on the other side for the Rays in my home run model. I think that's a little bit of smoke and mirrors so far for Ronaldo. He's a post-hype kind of a kid, never really truly put it together at the major league level and still could. He's young enough that he could still find it and put it all together, but I don't think this is the spot for him. I think there are some deadly hitters opposing him from the left side of the plate in this one. Brandon Lau gets a massive home run mark and is not drawing the ownership that I think he should off the top on this lineup. And there's just enough hitters on the Rays side of things that I'm worried about Ronaldo here. So I don't really want to go to him. I think I want to go to some Rays stacks if they're going to be under-owned. Although with his ownership projections being so low and his cost being so low, I think I will draw at least a few Ronaldo shares, just given the overall 23.4% strikeout rate in that confirmed Rays lineup. There's enough on the bone that I can both sides it a little bit and just get to 5-6% Ronaldo, and I'm fine over a 1% projection.
Yeah, so I have him at 10% on DK. So I'm happy to get a little bit of him here, especially because I think it's really easy to pull some of that 38% ownership to Carlos Hernandez and just sprinkle it around a little bit. So I have Alec Mills at 9%. I have Ronaldo Lopez at 10%. I have Carlos Hernandez at 10%. I see all three of those guys as relatively similar. The price for Carlos Hernandez is what's pulling him back into it for me. But it's not like I want to get a lot of him against the Rays. But if I'm playing 150 lineups today, I think like 10% of Ronaldo Lopez at no ownership is a decent spot.
Yeah, and the price is right, for a kid who's everything that I just described, the post hype and all of that, but pitching well. 7,000, probably a little bit of a discount. It's one of the better, if not the best, strikeout rate available on this slate. Again, small sample size in 25 innings, but he is that kind of a kid in terms of his pedigree. So it's not wholly unbelievable that he could come out and have a good start. I just don't expect it, but I'm happy to play a few shares at 7,000.
Now, what I would be interested in doing is getting to the opposite side of Ronaldo Lopez. I have the Rays as my number 9 stack, which doesn't grade out all that well, but they are number 2 in leverage. We're talking about a team that is pulling no ownership outside of Brandon Lau in the leadoff spot. Franco, 1%. Cruz, 2.1. Is that lineup out? Is Cruz in the lineup?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's confirmed.
This is a spot where I think that I could be a little comfortable having some Rays. It's a clearly talented lineup with a ton of power from top to bottom. So I like getting there just because they're simply unowned. Do you have interest in the Rays bats?
I do. Yeah, I wrote about this spot in my article as I was going through. I just picked a couple stacks to just kind of touch on and then the featured stack. So these guys I touched on, and I didn't make them the feature despite the big home run marks in my model, just because I assumed it was before the ownership projections were up. I assumed that the field, that you guys out there in the world were going to be getting to this team in this spot. I really like the Rays in this spot with these ownership projections. So I'm going to go back through everything that I'm doing and just kind of give a little bit of a nudge to these hitters. Massive home run potential in, obviously, Nelson Cruz, but also in Brandon Lau off the top of the lineup, also in G-Man Choi, Austin Meadows, Randy Arozarena, even righty-righty against this pitcher, no problem. I think Joey Wendell is an underrated asset for DFS purposes from the left side of the plate at the bottom of the lineup. There's some power upside if you need a catcher on DK in Francisco Mejia at 3,500. Yeah. I like this lineup pretty much from top to bottom. I can play any of these guys.
Why are multiple people saying Cruz isn't in the lineup? He's in the lineup.
Unless he scratched. He was in the confirmed lineup that I have.
Yep, same.
He's still in there on the lineup site.
Yep, agreed. So I anxiously await well, that's not what DraftKings says.
The best source of information on the planet, DraftKings.
Yeah.
The intern in the closet getting his information from who knows where.
The same place everybody else does, if I had to guess.
Misinterpreting it, sending it out into the world.
Oh, well, that's fair. Oh,
well, then we take back our making fun of whoever it might have been.
I take back nothing. All right. Since we got 3 lineups since my last crunch, I am starting a new crunch just to take a look at some things. What do you want to do with White Sox bats here? We have Chicago 6th in our top stack tool, but pretty significantly under-owned. So much so, in fact, that they are the biggest positive leverage stack on the slate. Do you agree with that?
I don't know about the biggest in terms of where I would expect them to be. Although, now that I'm looking at these ownership marks, they probably will end up with that once I run them through the ringer here. But I definitely want to get to them. This is a team. Yeah. They're just on my list of teams that are very, very good offenses that when they're low owned, I want to get to them regardless of situation almost. And in a spot where we're not expecting much of a run out of Chris Archer, he's a high upside pitcher with a good strikeout acumen, but I think they chase him fairly quickly here. And I think they get into the bullpen, and it's a good Rays bullpen, but I'll typically take a very good offense against a bullpen, regardless of the level of bullpen as well. And when you're talking about this team, everybody on the team owned under 5%, just like we were saying about the other team before. Yeah, that's an upside spot. Luis Robert, Jose Abreu, Eloy Jimenez, Yohan Moncada, Andrew Vaughn, Brian Goodwin through the heart of the order, bolt on Cesar Hernandez up top, Danny Mendick from the bottom, Zach Collins if you need a catcher. Top to bottom, another roster that I can play everybody in this lineup. The last two names, Danny Mendick and Zach Collins, would be the first two to cut for me. Cesar Hernandez, different kind of Cesar Hernandez year, 230, 309, 408 this season, but has 20 home runs and 512 plate appearances with a 178 ISO. Strange season for him, but leading off, you can absolutely roster shares of him, and then you get all the power and the upside through the middle of the lineup. Really like the White Sox here.
Same. I think they look like an absolutely great leverage stack, and if Chris Archer maintains some ownership, it makes it even a little bit better. Anything else for Rays and White Sox?
Not a lot of home run potential in this game. Decent spot for one-offs on both sides, sides and both sites. Everybody in this game owned in single digits. A lot of home run potential, a lot of upside. I'm going to be grabbing both stacks and one-offs in this game. And honestly, if I get no shares of either pitcher, I won't really sweat it, despite what we said about Ronaldo.
Coming in with the super chat. Thanks for the help with the one-off stack. I love it. Peter Hanley, the man who prints money on a day-to-day basis, no matter what happens. He is at the top of each contest. So keep your eyes peeled for that name. And honestly, thank you very much for the super chat. We really appreciate it.
Much appreciated. And just congrats, man. He's just been on a run. Did you see that night he had the other day? $600 in, 250K out, something like that?
Plus a ticket, I think, to the final.
Not too shabby.
No, not at all. No complaints there, I would imagine.
No, might have a Sunday like that.
No, not so much. All right, so we got promos here. I got a lot of them, so buckle up. We'll start with the best one, free soccer. One big word. Premier League is back. Liverpool picked up another W yesterday. Darn tootin'. It was a good time. Perfect way to start a Saturday, 7:30 a.m., watching soccer and picking up a W. You can get access to our soccer projections using the promo code FREESOCCER. You'll get a week of our Awesemo Plus soccer package for no cost whatsoever. Don't want to pass that up. Now we get into the stuff that actual people are going to care about, because no one wants to listen to me. Nelson Cruz scratched.
No, damn it.
What are the odds of that?
Somebody new.
Seriously, that's preposterous.
That's pretty bonkers.
Anyway, back to the promos. We'll deal with Nelson Cruz in a bit.
Somebody who works for the Rays is in our YouTube chat. That's all.
Evidently, that's hilarious.
Wow.
Oh God. Anyway,
yeah,
use the promo code BLITZ to get 25% off an Awesemo Plus NFL annual package. We do not do discounts on our annual packages all that frequently. To get 25% off the NFL package is massive. It's the same sort of projections and ownership, top stacks, premium slack, and more. We have tons of football tools for you, and you can save a sizable chunk of change by using that promo code BLITZ. But we're not done yet. Use the promo code WR to get our fantasy football draft kit. It's available for season long and for best ball leagues. It's the same projections, tools, analysis you get on the NFL DFS side, but now we're moving it into season long and best ball. We got the draft wingman tool, which I'll be debuting in quotes on Monday. Best ball rankings and stacking guide, trade value chart, and more. You can get up to a $35 credit for underdog and FFPC leagues. Use that promo code WR, get 33% off. It's basically less than $10 for everything we have to offer for season long and best ball. Don't skip it. Use that promo code, use the WR, use the Blitz, and just be here for everything. That's it. That's all I got.
I like it. And hey, people out there, if you sign up for the draft kit, all those promos will be emailed to you within the next 24 hours or thereabouts. So you don't have to write into our customer support team, although we're happy to answer that question for you.
There we go. 4 more games to go. Astros and Mariners. 5-run implied total for the Stros. 3.7 for the Mariners. It's Framber Valdez and Tyler Anderson. No ownership going to Anderson. No surprise there. Framber Valdez at 27% ownership right now. I have him at 33%. So to me, this looks perfectly acceptable. He is one of the 3 best pitchers on the slate today.
Yeah, absolutely. Framber is one of the top guys for me. I basically had it Waino, Alcantara and Framber, and basically as a pick 'em between the three of those guys, and that's how I wrote it up. So I really like the spot here for Framber. What I like about him is his ability to keep the ball in the park. Negative 5.3 average launch angle. Just everybody hits the ball directly into the ground against this guy. 69%, 69 point something percent ground ball rate. It was over 70 for most of the season. That was one I was watching and just, really pulling for the 70 plus ground ball rate for the season. So hopefully he gets back there. 41.9% hard hit rate, but we don't care because everything's on the ground. So I like going to Framber here. 21.9% strikeout rate for the season. We've seen him do better than that in strikeouts, and 10.5% walk rate is a little bit concerning if he puts guys on, but the ability to erase the home runs really, really limits the damage that the other side can do. And the one thing that the Mariners can do well against lefties is hit home runs. So I really like his upside here. The Seattle active roster, one of the worst in baseball, 26.1% strikeout rate against lefties. 90 WRC plus collectively, so 10% worse than average creating runs in the split. I mentioned the home runs. That's all they do well. 3.97% home run rate is well above average in the split, but he is just going to take those power bats out of their hands. So I think he can find a few additional strikeouts against this lineup and have a really, really nice start here. So 13.3% ownership on FanDuel. I expect to be a little bit over that, although it might creep up. If that crept up toward like 18, 20% as we were getting closer to lock, I wouldn't be totally stunned either.
Yeah, I got him at 19% for FanDuel, so I'd be happy to get over that 12% number if it exists. I don't think that we need to go into any sort of Tyler Anderson discussion, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I tend not to throw any pitchers at all against this Astros team. They're just way too good against both hands. They're one of the best in baseball against both hands. Against lefties, 18.5% strikeout rate. And you're talking about a lefty that has a 19.5% strikeout rate of his own. So, yeah, there's just no upside for Tyler Anderson. Could he get through a couple times clean and have a decent start kind of a day? Sure. Is it likely? Absolutely not. Are the Astros under-owned against Tyler Anderson? Yes, they are. So, yeah, it's much more about the Astros bats for me.
Well, let's talk about those Astros bats. I'm in agreement with you. These guys are pretty significantly under-owned as far as I could tell. So what do you want to do with Houston?
I want to put them right on that list with the White Sox and the Rays as teams that I just think are very good offenses that when they're under-owned, even against much, much better pitching, I'm happy to get to them. And against Tyler Anderson, I have no problem getting to this Astros team up and down the lineup. Again, everybody coming in the single digits. Altuve up at the top at 7.8% on FanDuel is their highest across both sites ownership projection. It's one of the best hitting clubs in baseball. I do not understand where the ownership is in this one. So, yeah, Altuve, Brantley, Correa, Jordan Alvarez, one of my better home run pick guys for the entire season, 24 long balls on the season, above average chance of a home run today, projects very well in his DFS score for me today, 288, 352, 534 on the year with a 246 ISO. Kid just murders the baseball when he makes contact. Yuli Gurriel, one of the most underrated hitters in the league, one of the most underrated assets for DFS all season long. Excellent hitter. Love putting him into the lineup. It's a clunky back end with Aledmys Diaz, Jake Myers, Taylor Jones, and Martin Maldonado, but 1 through 5 at least. And I'll throw Diaz into that 1 through 6. I think you can roster this team with a lot of confidence. Jake Myers, if you want to get to him, 51.9% hard hit rate, 14.8% barrel rate over his 43 plate appearances. He's turned that into 3 home runs. So a little bit of upside there as well.
These guys are showing up massively under-owned for me. I want to see where we are. Let me refresh our top stack tool. I want to see how big the gap is if I'm in the same ballpark. 4th overall, twice as this looks great. Altuve at 6%, Correa at 4%. I mean, none of that makes sense to me. Brantley and Alvarez both at 2%. I don't care that it's lefty. It's Tyler Anderson. Like, just give me more of incredibly good hitters that are picking up no ownership. It's a no-brainer to me to want to go to Houston today.
Yeah, this is one that, like I said, you just don't even need to think about. This is a great lineup, and they're going up against a mediocre at best pitcher. You mentioned Jordan Alvarez just real quick. This season, lefty. Jordan Alvarez, 298, 357, 503 with a 205 ISO, creating runs 39% better than average. Against righties, 282, 349, 552, 270 ISO, 47% better than average. So he's a super duper star against righties, and he's only a superstar against lefties. Roster Jordan Alvarez with confidence.
Why is this character's stuff not pulling through for me right now. This is quite annoying. What is this error?
Who's that?
Tsutsugo. There's too many letters that don't belong there. Yoshi.
It's Yoshi Tsutsugo. I think he's Yoshitomo. His full name.
Oh yeah. So that's all fine, but like I feel like I have this thing corrected. I know where the issue is. Let me scroll you down here a little bit. I forgot that I changed your name during the middle of all of it. Now I think that I should be dancing. 152. There we go. God, that was frustrating. There's nothing worse than seeing that like you're missing a guy, but not really figuring out what the problem is. I think his name has changed from a Fangraphs perspective because I had it different and had to make like source changes, which is always the worst.
Yeah. Anytime I've got to hunt it down across like 19 different tabs to find out which one is actually the one that's tripping it up between the 3 or 4 different sources in here. It's always an adventure. And there have been some fun ones this year where they've on the same day, FanDuel will change it one way and Fangraphs will change it the other way. So they'll cross in the night without realizing it. And you've just got to switch everything the opposite way. I think it was Nate to Nathaniel Lowe was the biggest example of that.
Yeah, that one happened recently.
Yep.
Any Mariners bats for you? I don't really have any interest.
I wouldn't totally mind a couple shares just because they're entirely unowned, but everything I said about Framber's ability to keep the ball on the ground, to completely limit the home run upside, potentially find a few strikeouts, it would just be about some sequential hitting opportunities maybe. So it would just be the top of the lineup, maybe a couple shares of like Mitch Haniger, Ty France, Kyle Seager, Abraham Toro. Those would be the guys, but there's not much appeal there for me. If I got, a handful of lineups, I wouldn't necessarily cross them out, but I'm not going to them by any means.
Well, let's keep it moving then. We'll go to Brewers and Nats. 5.3 run implied total for the Brewers, 3.8 for the Nats. Adrian Hauser and Sean Nolan. No ownership coming to either pitcher. Do you have any interest in going to Hauser here?
I was just kind of thinking that through because he's not like an apex pitcher. He's certainly not the caliber of most of the other Brewers pitchers, but this is a bad Nationals team. This is a bad lineup that he's going to be going against. So I think on this slate, there's at least the kind of reasonable expectation of some upside here, just for the fact that the opposing team is just a AAA team, basically, except for Juan Soto in that lineup. Josh Bell, you can convince me, is a major league caliber hitter. Everybody else is pretty bad in that lineup. So I don't expect much from Hauser over the course of the season. 104 innings, 18.1% strikeout rate, 10.9% walks, way too high on the walks, 6.5% barrel ball rate, 40.3% hard hit. He's a targetable pitcher. He's somebody that I would normally be looking to throw some bats at. And if I rostered him in significant shares, I would probably grab a few hedge stacks of like Soto, or maybe it's just, some Soto and Bell one-offs or two-mans or something like that, or Victor Robles with those two as a three-man. But maybe I would grab a few hedge shares. But yeah, I think there's some upside, particularly because Hauser's sitting at 1% ownership on FanDuel for 7,400, 4% ownership on DK at 77. For those prices, that ownership, I think you can at least go over the field on him with a little bit of confidence that he could put up a clean start for you, even if he doesn't get a ton of strikeouts here against this team, which there is the upside for that against this squad. So I don't love it, but I think I would begrudgingly take some shares of Hauser here.
Yeah, I would get a little bit. The piece that I want to point out most for this game is that the Brewers are pretty sizable favorites. I don't think it should be nearly as big as it is. So if you're interested in taking a bit of a long shot, I don't hate the idea of getting to a little bit of the Nats, whether you want to take them on the run line or just simply take the money line, which is, I don't know, somewhere in like the plus 185, plus 190 range. I don't see this Brewers offense as being all that different from the Nats. They both have one hitter that's like really, really good in it, whether that's Yelich or Juan Soto. Obviously, Soto significantly better. And the rest of these guys are like mediocre at best. So I think this one's a little bit closer than it seems. Bet the Nats if you want. In terms of plays in this game, I have the Brewers as my number 4 stack. I think they're basically properly owned, depending on who you're looking at. Some guys a little over-owned, some guys a little under-owned. So I'm mostly neutral to the Brewers, and I'm not interested in the Nats, who show up 14th for me. It's just not going to be the spot. Although there is at least a little bit of leverage if you want to go to like a $2,200 Victor Robles in the leadoff spot. But otherwise, Brewers bats look okay. A little bit of Hauser. I say bet on the Nats.
The bet part I'll leave to you. That's an interesting one. They could certainly get to Adrian Hauser. Look, he's not much of a pitcher. I just read off some of the clunky numbers that he's got there. So could they string together some hits? Absolutely. Could Victor Robles get on, steal a bag, and then get driven in by one of the quality hitters? And then we just have a kind of low scoring affair. Absolutely. So yeah, I can get with you on the Nationals bet. For me, the Brewers maybe a little over-owned for where I like to get to this team. I've kind of talked down about them most of the season, and I think they're just in general somewhat of an overrated offense or maybe an overperforming offense in spots. So it's a team I haven't loved getting to, and it's kind of for the reasons that you said. You've got your one really good hitter, and we'll take everybody's comments about Christian Yelich's season in the YouTube chat: 244, 373, 385, 8 home runs, 141 ISO across 327 plate appearances. That's a little bit of a clunky non-Yelich season. He is still a superstar hitter, 49.5% hard hit rate, 9.8% barrel ball. He's still Christian Yelich. It's hiding in there somewhere. 22% ownership, though, gets a little heavy for any individual player. And the other guys that I'd want to get to in that lineup on the FanDuel slate, at least, Eduardo Escobar pulling around 20% ownership, Willy Adames, similar mid-teens ownership. So they're a little bit better looking to me on the DK slate, but they're more expensive over there. So between the ownership and not wanting to pay the price for these hitters, I just don't see coming up with a ton of Brewers in my crunch and after I get through the sorting tool on this one.
Moving it on to Cardinals and Pirates. This one should be pretty easy to do. 4.8 run implied total for the Cards, 3.3 for the Pirates. Adam Wainwright, Steven Brault. 32% ownership going to Wainwright. I think it's fully justified. I'm not worried at all about this Pirates team. They don't grade out all that well. I actually think that Adam Wainwright is the best pitching option you can get to on the slate. I think he's actually a little underowned. Do you have anything you want to add for Wainwright?
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. 9,600 is probably a fair price. 93, a lot of ownership there, but it's fair ownership. So yeah, ride the Waino train here. This is definitely the best pitcher on the board.
I have no interest in Steven Brault. I don't need to add any interest. Do you want any Brault?
I don't think so. If I ended up with a couple of shares, I wouldn't totally hate it. 21.4% strikeout rate over 14 and 2/3 puts him around the other pitchers that we've talked about. The Cards are an offense I don't love throwing pitchers at, although they're not great for sequential hitting. So if they're not hitting home runs, they're not nearly as dangerous an offense. And Brault has a history of keeping the ball in the yard overall. This season, it's not really there yet because it's a very small sample, so we can't look at those numbers, which include a 14.6% barrel ball rate and 51.2% hard hit. But still in my model, he's kind of capping the home run upside for the Cards. It's probably just kind of creating a stay away spot for me where I'm not going to have too much of the Cards, not going to have too much Brault. But if I had a few shares of each side of that, I wouldn't totally mind it.
Yeah, Cardinals third for me in top stack, but eighth in leverage, which is middle of the pack. So I like some of the bats, but I don't really have much of a take here. I think they're properly owned, but I think they are pretty firmly my number 3 stack. Tommy Edman, the guy that stands out the most, second base and outfield eligibility across both sites. Any particulars for the Cardinals bats against Brault?
Yeah, I like Edman. I like that ownership mark on him. You're not getting a ton of power with him, but a lot of speed, a little bit of on-base acumen at the top of the lineup. I think Arenado is interesting given the 9% ownership on FanDuel, 10% on DK. It's a pay-up spot, but one of the better power hitters in this lineup. And if I'm making a decision, I just need a power hitter from this lineup, I'd rather roster that ownership than Tyler O'Neill's 17%, even though I see O'Neill as potentially a better home run opportunity.
And for Pirates bats, they are 15th on the list for me. I can't really justify it other than the fact that Wainwright's pulling the ownership on a potential 7-game slate, depending on what happens with the Orioles and the Braves. But I think there's just going to be better spots here.
Yeah, it would just be about attacking that ownership. If you want to do it, I would look to Brian Hayes, Brian Reynolds, Colin Moran, and then one of Jacob Stallings or Gregory Polanco. Rodolfo Castro is sort of interesting, but his numbers have really calmed down since his quick start. Ben Gamel, sort of interesting off the top, but it's really about that core in the middle of the lineup there. Brian Hayes, very interesting. Once he starts barreling the ball more, he's going to turn into a phenomenal hitter. 45.5% hard hit rate, only a 4.8% barrel ball rate, though. 248, 317, 370 on the season, only 5 home runs. He's going to be a much, much better hitter than that. Might start today.
Well, there we go. We've got one more game to go, and this one's going to be interesting. Cubs and Royals, 4.1 run implied total for the Cubs, 3.9 for the Royals. Alec Mills getting about 10% ownership, seems about right. And then we get to Carlos Hernandez going for the Royals, who's pulling 42% ownership on DraftKings at 5,900, 16 on FanDuel. I have him at 11 on DraftKings. So 1/4 of the ownership. Talk to me here. What am I missing for Carlos Hernandez?
Whatever the field might be seeing with Carlos Hernandez, I assume that's entirely price driven and people just trying to get to some pricey bats. Although a lot of the pricey bats that we were examining didn't really have massive ownership share. So I don't really know what people are projected to do with the money that they're saving by going to this guy. But to me, it's entirely price driven. A 23.6% strikeout rate on the season over 52 innings is very much in play on this slate compared to the other guys that we've talked about. That's right in range of all the other upside guys. But an 11.4% walk rate, 4.53 xFIP, 1.35 whip, allowing a 6.4% barrel ball rate with 41.4% hard hit, 90.1 of average exit velo. That's a lot of home run trajectory, a lot of home run upside, 14.1 degree average launch angle. So there's some concerning home run marks. Now you're dealing with a Cubs lineup that is just garbage after they traded away all their good players. I like Ian Happ still as a hitter. Patrick Wisdom has flashed all kinds of crazy power upside, although he's a quad A aged up kind of a player. I think there's a little bit of upside in going to those two with maybe like a Frank Schwindel, but not a ton of threat here for Carlos Hernandez. I think even against a quad A team, though, this guy's a little bit concerning. I want no part of that ownership.
No, neither do I. It doesn't make a lick of sense to me. Just pulling it up now, because I want to make sure I get everything right here. 453 xFIP so far this season in the majors, 435 in the 26 innings that he threw in AAA, and a 509 in limited innings last year in MLB. So nothing great. The 4 projection models on FanGraphs have his FIP at either 4.9, 4.75, 4.82, or 4.57. So we're talking about a below average pitcher. I understand the Cubs aren't very good, but this isn't a guy with strikeout stuff. 24% strikeout rate this year, 23 in AAA, 19 last year in the majors. He's the number 17 prospect for the Royals. He's not ranked overall. He's got a fastball and nothing else. I have no interest in this whatsoever. I'd rather either get to a little bit of the, not even a little bit. I would rather get to the Cubs as a leverage stack. I think they're under-owned just in general. And if Carlos Hernandez is in 40% of the lineups, it makes it even easier.
Yeah, you can definitely attack that ownership. Again, we're doing it with a really, really lousy Cubs team, but it would be about the hitters I mentioned with Frank Schwindel, Ian Happ, Patrick Wisdom leading my home run model. And then you can bolt on Rafael Ortega. You can bolt on Matt Duffy. Jason Hayward always has the ability to turn on one, although he's not really done it very much this season. And he's coming in at 196, 266, 316. Ouch, 40% worse than average grading runs. Austin Romine flashes a little occasional power for 2,100 as a catcher on DK. He could be a little interesting. They're not a good baseball team, but you're throwing them up against a bad pitcher and in any given day kind of a play. Sure, absolutely, I can get with that.
Give me your thoughts on the Royals, if you have any. Not a team that I'm all that interested in. And then we got to give our dong picks, and then we get out of here for Live Before Lock.
Yeah, Alec Mills, not a fearsome pitcher, somebody you easily throw up a few stacks against. That said, the guys that I want to roster on the DK slate anyway are getting at least a little bit of attention, and that would be Whit Merrifield, Sal Perez, Andrew Benintendi. I get nice home run marks on Sal Perez, a decent one on Carlos Santana later in the lineup. He's a guy I would potentially target. Maybe it's as one-off switch hitter, a lot of power from late in the lineup. Has only kind of flashed it this season with a 146 ISO and 17 home runs, but he's hit well over 30 home runs a couple times in his career. So we can go to Santana. And then on the FanDuel slate, they're a little bit less owned, so they're a little bit more targetable. Whit Merrifield back on the board over there, only 2.8% ownership, leading the league with 37 stolen bases. Power's out a little bit for Whit, but you can get to him for the on-base acumen and the stolen base upside. So I can roster some shares of the Royals, but they're not a go-to, not a priority for me.
Nelson Cruz with COVID, by the way, or on the COVID list. So
that sucks.
Who is the dong pick? Who you got for me today?
The dong pick going to that Tigers and Blue Jays game for number 500 in his career. Come on down, Miguel Cabrera, and your 50% hard hit rate on the season. That's my guy, Miggy.
You weren't in Slack earlier. You didn't see it, did you?
No, I didn't. What happened?
Dave came in posting fake $300 bets on Miggy to homer today. So
he's going to go make that bet right now because I call that. He's been riding my own picks all year.
Awful timing for this. Awful timing. Top of the home run. Top of the dong picks for me, Jorge Soler. He is my number one pick for today. But That didn't go well for me. Shout out to OddsShopper for being the presenting sponsor of the show, and shout out to Live Before Lock for being on right now. Thank you guys for joining us for the deeper dive. For Terry, I'm Josh. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Good luck today. Stick around. We're not going anywhere. One more hour. Eric and Gundacker next.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the MLB Live Before Lock Show presented by OddsShopper. I am Eric Lindquist. That guy over there is Gundacker, the one and only Gundacker. Very excited to have him. This has kind of become a little bit of a Sunday thing for us, and I rather enjoy it. I'm not going to try to steal your catchphrase because it's really enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to it right now. How you doing, my dude?
How we doing? Good morning. Happy Sunday. Happy rain day. What a slate this is turning into. And we still have one more maybe game, right? So
one more maybe.
And it's the first game.
So Camden, maybe. I don't know. That was terrible. I tried.
You know, I was told that on Awesemo programming, I come off robotic. I was like, they haven't watched an Eric and Gunn show.
They have not. Well, no, it all goes back to taking a pill in Ibanez. Like, I think everything that is great about you and me together is rooted in that one sentence, because I couldn't keep a straight face for the next 15 minutes. But something that we definitely need you to do is hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. So, you know, when all this content here at Awesemo is going live, I'm putting in the work here from Denver, Colorado. We just had good old Rinpack put up a nice showing there at the old live final here. So that was nice. A little 6th place finish for him. Had a crazy little night here in downtown. So I'm just ready to get to baseball, because it was a freaky situation out here in downtown, and not in a good way. So either way, let's just get right to it. Gundacker, what do you see on the slate? What are your first impressions before we dig into it?
I mean, the first one was rain. It looks like I knew yesterday when the Yankees and Twins got postponed that far in advance. There was probably some serious stuff, rain weather-wise, hitting the Northeast, and then we're seeing a couple. I think the Red Sox game we lost, and then the Baltimore game listed as a potential next victim. So that is really watering down our pitching pool. And creating some incredible numbers, like Carlos Hernandez against the Chicago Cubs. So it's going to be some interesting spots.
He's a thing today. And I think I understand it a little bit more than the guys on the last show. Like, for me, it comes down to K percentage. And I don't know what else we're looking at other than 23.6% K percentage and then price. You combine the two of them. Cubbies lineup is completely dog. You know what? I think it makes a little bit of sense, but God, does it not feel good to feel invested in him today?
It doesn't, but his numbers, you know, they're so bad that they remind me of Chris Bubich, Brad Keller. You know what I'm saying?
Chris Bubich, the GOAT of, I don't know, yesterday.
Well, yeah,
yesterday's GOAT.
There's a reason I mentioned those two. Brad Keller, 28 DKP, 6 innings strong, 8 strikeouts. Not a thing for Brad Keller typically. And then Bubich had a no-hitter through 6. A rain delay jacked it up. So this Cubs team, man, I hate to play bad pitchers, but this is not a major league team. Like, this is not great. But unfortunately, it looks like the field is catching up with that.
Yeah, Jason Hayward, Austin Romine, Sergio Alcantara. It is an interesting back end of this lineup. And I mean, the front end isn't very good. Frank Schwindel couldn't find a baseball team to play on until recently here. And then he just goes on a crazy hitting streak. But all in all, I think it's going to level out here. It's still 2.3K. I think you can go both sides of it. I don't know. I don't want to be playing these Cubbies bats, but I think I'm going to have to be on both sides of this one. I'm not too sure. But let's just start with the pitching slate here. Again, it's rough. Let's start at the top end. Framber Valdez. I have some interest here. Extreme ground ball pitcher, somebody that I think can actually get some work done in this spot for sure. Maybe get a couple more strikeouts. The Mariners have kind of been brutal on the back half of this lineup, getting Torrance and Murphy both in that lineup to increase a little bit of the K opportunity. Probably a good thing here as well. But what do you see kind of from Framber Valdez? And then if you want to touch on Adam Wainwright, I guess he's on that top end too. We've been targeting Pittsburgh like it's our job, because I guess it is kind of our job. That's what we're doing here. So Adam Wainwright as well, the reincarnated, revamped Adam Wainwright. How do you feel about those guys on top of the board?
So with Framber Valdez, I'm I don't have the warm and fuzzies like you'd think I would against the Mariners, but he definitely has the potential to get us like a 1-4 strikeout rate. And then in context of the options of the slate, Valdez has to be a top 3, top 4 pick here at home. He's had a 24% K rate. 224 average allowed. The bugaboo here is the walks, a 13.3% walk rate at his house, 10% against righties, 11.5% against lefties overall. It's going to suppress power. So I do think that is going to be his calling card here, is even if you lose a couple of guys, you keep the ball in the park. And it's probably not going to take much to be a top 3 scorer pitching wise on the slate, knock on wood. So I'm there on him. And then Wainwright, man, I'm definitely turning into a Wainwright fantasy player. One of my favorite things about Wainwright, and this is really weighted a little bit more for FanDuel, is you just know you're probably going to get 7 innings out of Adam Wainwright when he touches the diamond. 100 pitches is a realistic expectation, and usually he'll get you some strong results. I was soured on J-Hap yesterday with just opening my horizons on playing guys like Hernandez a little bit more. If Hap can do it, I think Wainwright can get me a strong 6-7 innings, hopefully a quality start. If he gets a strikeout per, cool. If not, I think his floor is probably the highest. Maybe his ceiling isn't as high as some of the others, but his floor has got to be pretty doggone high. So I think Wainwright's a pretty rock solid option. It probably my highest owned.
You have such a way with words. There's really no way around.
I'm an alphabet crook. I have a way.
What does that even mean?
I got away with words.
Oh my God!
What?
I mean, Jordan Klein is dead. His hair is outrageous too. He's in a row, and he's on the floor.
Indicator
he's
is
on the floor. Oh my! Oh yeah, oh man, I set that up about as good as you possibly could. I love you so much. All right, moving ourselves along the board here. We've got to get the people the goods, but also we got to get the people the comedy. And that is the most unbelievable thing I've ever heard. Okay, John Means, Sandy Alcantara next up here on the board. Chad is just going nuts.
Try to be the salt of the MLB DFS earth. I got you.
Yeah. So we got to keep an eye on this. We got to keep an eye on this Baltimore weather. It is so questionable. And I want to play Touki Toussaint. I don't know if I'm going to get to play Touki Toussaint revamped. I do expect that K percentage to continue to drop down here. Just because the sinker he's kind of like thrown into the mix, into his pitch mix that he's throwing nearly over 50% of the time, looking like it's not going to get any whiffs. And so if guys are swinging earlier in the count, I got to imagine that it's probably going to get put in play more and more going forward if people are just kind of waiting on it. But Touki Toussaint, we'll see if we get the opportunity to play him. Oh my God, look at Chad. It's just out of its mind. John Means, probably the same exact situation. Top 2 pitcher percentage isn't completely in love with either of them, but both double-digit opportunities. Touki Toussaint, I guess, is 5th on the board. Man, I hope we get an opportunity to play him. How do you feel about pitchers in that Baltimore game?
Yeah, I mean, so weather aside, I definitely can understand the case for both. I'm more likely to pick on the Orioles than the Braves. I do like the Braves generally, but the weather has me spooked, and it's probably, when we're seeing other teams postpone on slates that start early, it likely means the weather's not going to go away anytime soon. I have not looked at the Baltimore situation, but I would be very cautious. And anytime rain is involved for pitching, it's just a wild card. So I have no John Means right now. I would want to get to a little bit of Touki Toussaint, but he is also somebody that has enough risk that I don't need to make him a priority or even stamp a lot of equity on him. So right now I have him capped at 10%, and I'm willing to just yank it. What really hurts me is I wouldn't mind the Braves at all if this game did run. So that's annoying, but it is the first game on the slate. So hopefully we get more than just a delay notification to kind of make us a little bit more prepared.
If I knew this game was good to go, I would have a ton of Touki Toussaint, especially at his ownership right now, only 6.8%. I mean, maybe part of that is weather induced, I think, but looking at John Means, I don't know if that's 1.3%. I gotta imagine both reasons are because of the weather. I'm hoping to see a late start. Is that kind of what you're thinking too here? If we get a late start, maybe we're in a better spot to play these dudes, including Atlanta bats.
Yeah, so I don't know what this storm cell is looking like, but like I said, for Fenway and the Yankees to postpone, I don't know if this storm is further north to where it wouldn't give them a pocket later in the day. But I would imagine that call would have been made already. But
right,
that's the part that I hate doing as an analyst, is trying to guess what grown men are going to decide when it comes to weather. But usually I don't worry about noon games. Because there's usually time throughout the day where you can get it in, but seeing other teams, PPD noon games or a day in advance make me think that this one could be a little different than the usual rain cloud.
I'm right there with you, and we've got a number of other spots we can go to. At least 7 games would remain, but yeah, this 8th game here, I'm really hoping we can kind of keep this intact, because I do want to play pitchers. I want to play bats. So I want to play a little bit of everything if it's going to come in way overlooked for sure. Let's move ourselves down the board here with the pitchers. We've got Vladimir Gutierrez. We've got Steven Matz, who's garnering the craziest amount of ownership here on the slate, 48.3%. Part of that is just facing a Detroit team who, up against lefty pitching, you kind of expect those splits to be a little bit better. I mean, 101 WRC plus is nifty. They're at least, one run above average there, but 26.1% K percentage. It's second most in the majors this season, only a 155 ISO as well. So maybe you can get by here. Steven Matz, not my favorite pitcher to be rostering ever, but it's hard to overlook this spot. Do you believe in him at this ownership at nearly 50%?
Yeah, the ownership's killer. This Tigers lineup actually has some green on it in my spreadsheet in terms of just their general numbers against average left-handed pitching. I don't mind Jonathan Scope, Miggy, guys like that. So I this is probably one of those, if I'm MMEing, I'm playing both sides. The thing with Steven Matz, even if he, lets up 3 earnings and has a mediocre game at 8,200, if he got to 16, as I said, in context of this slate, 16 the dog might hunt at the end of the day and give you a puncher's chance. And so if I roster Matz here, it's not for a clean game. The pushback on that is a 50% owned 16 DKP is I don't need it. It's just, could we unlock the 25, 30 DKP in this matchup? And unfortunately, there is a range of outcome for that, but I definitely think the ownership is putting that in the shadows. I don't think it is this consistent. I think if we look at our top pitchers tool, there's about a 20% negative leverage per se versus how often he is optimal. So I'm going to get to Matz, but definitely not at the level the field is.
I'm right there with you. I'm kind of chopping it in half and kind of moving on with my day. 25% chance of being the top pitcher. Let's just play 25%. I don't want 50% of him. I'd rather take a lot of the field, and I don't see a crazy difference. And this is just gross, but Vladimir Gutierrez, I think, is going to be one of my higher owned pitchers on this slate. 8K going up against this Miami AAA quad A team that we're looking at here. 4.1 implied runs is a large number. It is 88 degrees there, but at least there's some K opportunity. He's only coming in around 10% owned. And I'm starting to think that is going to be the guy that I'm relying on. 17.8% K percentage is just brutal, but I think pitching is so brutal here. I don't see a huge difference between him and Matz. Both are in fantastic matchups. Neither one going to be lighting the world on fire in the K department. Looking over at Matz here for the season as well, 23.3%, obviously markedly better, but I don't see a huge gap just when you consider the ownership here. If it were flat, obviously I would much rather have Matz, but do you have any interest in maybe taking some shots with me on Vladimir Gutierrez?
Yeah, just because the strikeouts are there. Looking at this Marlins lineup, you put their stats against righties since the beginning of last year. I've got Jesus Sanchez, Jazz Chisholm, and the entire lineup, other than Jesus Aguilar and Miguel Rojas, with a 27% or greater K rate to righties. So bad pitchers can fall into a couple extra ones. And this is kind of the Hernandez argument. Like, if you're I saw the picture too, and I was trying not to corpse. I don't know if he
fire it up. Jordan Klein, fire it up.
Is that Hollywood for put it on the screen? I'm scared.
Yes, there it is.
Chat.
Oh my God. Dude, it's so true. Just body bag the world already. I mean, you're good for at least 2 a day. And then we get De Niro at the end if we get enough likes. So get those likes up to 200. That's what we're going to need.
No. 200 is not fair because Josh and Terry got like 150.
Okay.
So get it
what
to
do we
250.
Need? 250 to get De Niro. All right. I will personally start some bots up as we're on live here right now, just to get that number up. Dude, that's so freaking good. That's so good. Jordan Klein, the best producer in the game, named Jordan Klein for sure. Cannot believe. Cheers to you, my dude. Let's do this quick here before we kind of move our way down the board. God, I mean, I have reads and stuff. I got to do stuff. I got to actually be active over here. I can't.
Good. I got to.
I know, Gundacker. I just want to keep going. What do you need from me?
I just want to let you know I'm not a rapper.
Oh, coming up, I was confused. My mom.
GPPs, I win them.
Big girl, no discrimination here, squirrel. How about all of those? I mean, I'll just come up with all my mid 2000s rap that I got. But what you need to check out, which is actually entertaining as opposed to me rapping, is Betting You, which is Ben Rasa and Matt Gajewski talking all college football Heisman odds. Whether or not George is going to win every single game this entire season, which is in play here, if they can get by Clemson week 1, of course. Ridiculous football team. Looking forward to that every single Wednesday. Go to Apple, go to Spotify, go to all the places where you get your podcasts. Put in that work, Devin. Don't give up. And then, of course, the YouTube channels that we have going here. Season-long fantasy football. If you want to go to the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel and then the Awesemo Odds channel, both of those, click the links at the top of the YouTube chat. I know you guys are all in there hanging out. Oh, my God. Peter Hanley just came in and dropped a $20 bomb. My goodness. Just go away. Just go on your mountain of money. Well, actually, no. Thank you so much, Peter Hanley. But we are producing sports betting and fantasy football content around the clock. So make sure you stay up to date with all of that. You've got me, you've got Luffy, you've got so many of the guys behind the scenes. Greg Ehrenberg's putting out content constantly. Matt Gajewski, Ben Rasa, Josh Engleman. Everybody is throwing together the best they can here for the fantasy football season. I'm telling you, we have the best team in the industry. You're going to want to be a part of that. And if you know you're going to want to stick around for NFL DFS too, grab out our early bird special, Awesemo Plus NFL annual pass right now, 25% off. With the promo code BLITZ, BLITZ. That's a full season's worth of Awesemo Plus player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, premium Slack, and tons more. Blitz, 25% off that Awesemo Plus NFL annual pass. Click that top link up in the description. They're doing everything that they can over on the other side of the screen here. It's unbelievable the amount of content that's getting put out on a day-to-day basis. So make sure you're on the lookout for it there and make sure you're on the lookout for week 1. It is coming soon. Peter Hanley, my guy. I gave one earlier, but I wasn't sure how you split it. So here you go. We split it. It's like we're at church. We're putting it all. It's going all to the one direction. It's simply just putting it in the pass along the plate. You know what I'm talking about. It's been a while since I've been to church because I'm working Sundays. That's what's up. But yeah, are you a church loving fellow? This is a great conversation for YouTube, right?
No, that's not.
Okay, cool.
I am, but no. But that's what makes you beautiful. Giving the money to one direction.
Yeah, this is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.
Well,
all right, we're going to keep it on rolling. We got more pitchers to talk. Jordan Klein is like out of his mind. I don't think we're ever allowed to do shows together after this, Gundacker.
I don't know how they keep doing it, to be honest. But
yeah, what an all-time screw up. Well done, Chris, over there. No, thank you so much because I enjoy this every single day that we are on this. We're bag Jordan by the end of this show for sure. Let's round out pitchers. Are there some gross, disgusting, disturbing, ridiculous, terrible, awful, no good, very bad pitchers on this slate that we are looking at rostering? Can I interest you in one revamped, questionable? I don't know what he's going to be like. Chris Archer.
I mean, Tropicana Field can create some positive environments for pitchers. I'm sure the crowd will be behind him. The White Sox, as menacing as they are, do come with a little bit of strikeout potential. So I would say there's, on a slate where we're playing some weird names, there's not a 0% range of outcome in terms of him at 7,900, getting you that 16 to 20. Could he match and just be a pure pivot to one of these other pitchers, maybe. I think the major pushback I have with Archer is a little bit of questions about like what his pitch count might be, right? I'm sure he's been rehabbed up, but I don't know, how much stress they're willing for him to pitch through in his first go ahead. So I'm not against the idea. Looks like in his last start, he went 4.2 innings in the minors, 6 strikeouts. So over a strikeout per, gave up just 1 hit. I mean, I think if I had to put a weird number on a pitch count, maybe 80 to 85, and I'm just making that up to make myself feel better. But 700, yeah, why not? But not a lot.
Okay, not a lot, but I'm checking the weather here as you were going in Baltimore. Want to keep everybody apprised of it here before we get into some stacks, before we round out the rest of pitching here. Looks as though, oh man, I have no idea what's going on with this radar. This is absurd.
It's going to rain.
It's going to rain. There's a bubble and it's red, and then there's another bubble and it's orange. But if the orange one goes and it goes over, we're good. And if the red one goes over, I'm pretty sure they're screwed. So I don't know. Yay, being a meteorologist on Live Before Lock. Not my favorite thing to do. Oh, we've got El Negro Loco in the chat. My dude, coming in there, I'm seeing a 95% chance that the game should play with a good chance of an in-game delay. Okay. So Touki Toussaint, that becomes kind of a disaster for me because that was going to be one piece I wanted. But I think Atlanta bats. If that is the case, 95% is a large, large number. I feel pretty confident about that. Does that make you feel a little bit better?
Yeah, I would probably just jump off the plane of Touki Toussaint and means, but I'd pull the shoot on the Brave stack.
Okay.
I don't know what that was. That wasn't even like I wasn't even trying to do anything with that.
You were just giving information. What a crazy thing that is to just throw it out there.
And because of the volatility behind the pitchers there, neither bullpen is astonishing. So if we thought the game would play like 27 out wise or even 20 outs, I'd probably take shots on both stacks.
Yeah, and I'm going to here, and I'm going to get to some Baltimore bats here too, against Touki / the bullpen, however that game kind of shakes out. There's a lot to still kind of be determined there. And some of the exposures that I'm just getting on some of these stacks as I'm finishing it out are crazy. Let's finish out pitching though. Is there anything else that sticks out to you on the board that you want to touch on? I don't see a ton else that I really want to be going to. I think it's going to be pretty condensed for me. You could make a case at 1%, Brault, Anderson, Lopez. I mean, maybe large field GPPs taking a shot or two on them, but no meaningful exposure in any way, shape, or form for me. How about yourself?
I think the unstoppable force versus the movable object is Alcantara against the Reds.
Yes.
Alcantara is a good pitcher, but you are plugging him from a plus pitcher park to one of the worst hitters park, and we saw it happen in Coors. Although Coors has different reasons to play like it does than this park. This park's just a bandbox. But at 9,100, if you're going to give me an opportunity to be a little different on a slate that's already kind of chaotic, and give me Alcantara at 8% owned, and I could take 20, 25% and feel like I got a good shot to get me there. I think he's more talented than 8% ownership. Obviously, I'm always stacking the Reds at home, but I think Alcantara is actually a good pitcher that's worth taking shots on if we're out here discussing the validity of Hernandez and Matz and Archer. So probably him.
Okay. I love it. I'm going to have a little bit of him as well. I think he makes a lot of sense. You're looking at our top 2 pitchers tool, which is the best tool in the industry to be able to understand leverage, to understand how certain players are projecting out. And it's a terrible matchup. I mean, Cincinnati is freaky, and specifically a righty against Cincinnati is freaky, but you're getting this Jose Barrero cat in the lineup here. You can't even play him on DK, so that's interesting. You get Shogo Akiyama, who's not very good at baseball, or at least of the hitting of baseballs. Must be a decent enough fielder because he doesn't do anything well with a bat. And then you have no Jesse Winker in that lineup because he's still out. So I think it still makes some sense to be targeting Cincinnati in this spot, even though it's a kind of play both sides and move on with your day kind of a spot. But that is going to do it for pitching here. We will move ourselves along to the stacks. This is what you guys are all here for. Hit the like button as well. We got to get to 250 so we can get some De Niro. Yes, Mike Barnold, liking for the De Niro. That is what I like to see. That is the content that I am personally here for. That is for sure. But stacks, looking at the top end of the board, Atlanta, 14.9% top stack potential, 11.6 ownership share. I don't know. I think people are going to start getting freaked out by this weather, and I'm just going to kind of go full steam ahead. 95% Loco. He's saying, I don't think it plays clean. I'm definitely saying that it's not going to play clean if there's no delay. If they do not delay this thing and try to wait for like a pocket of rain in the middle of it, they are definitely going to get hit with the delay in the middle of this game. So I personally would like to see that it starts in a delay. It might freak people out even further. No. Whereas for me, you just kind of jam them at that point. Is that kind of the way you feel about it?
I think John Means is their best pitcher. So if they start it and the rain is expected to come and that kicks them out even quicker, then the Braves unlock that bullpen, which is glorious. So
it's Coors Field.
So I would actually be cool with that starting not in delaying, just fade pitchers. And then I would probably make the Braves a little bit more interesting for me.
Okay. Well, that's the other way to look at it for sure. For me, it's still wanting to play Tukey. I'm just a sicko for this guy. I can't quit you for sure.
Why can't I quit you?
You and me just getting fired every second. This is great. Let's talk other stacks here as we're going down the line. Toronto getting a crazy, and I do mean crazy amount of ownership, 29.5% ownership share. I mean, I feel like this team is going overlooked pretty much every single slate for the last month. That is no more, as you see Bichette down to 4,900, Simeon 5,300 on DK. Other than Vlad, everybody is gettable. You have Corey Dickerson and Lourdes Gurriel who give you some savings. Alejandro Kirk, hitting in the 6 hole, 3,700 catcher in the stack. Randall Grichuk, we saw go yard. He's got some power in the 8 hole. And Kevin Smith, who has from time to time, that's not Kevon Smith, I guess. But Kevin Smith, I don't know anything about Kevin Smith. I'm not going to lie. What do you think about Toronto in this spot at their crazy amount of ownership?
I think Kevin Smith, the Jay and Silent Bob. I'm sure there was a joke in there.
You looked for it. You couldn't find it, but now we're going to move on with our day.
I feel like that's true. I didn't. So the question is the Blue Jays stack. What are we doing with the Blue Jays? I think Drew Hutchison was who we thought he was. He came out against Cleveland and just could not buy many outs, 1.2 innings pitched, and just gave up a ton of hits, a couple walks. I think he used to play for the Blue Jays for a hot minute. This is a really strong spot for the Blue Jays. If you lose the Camden game, which is still not off the table, we're suspecting is closer to going than not. This ownership has to go somewhere, and the fact that this could end up being the only double-digit owned team outside of maybe the Cardinals, if we did lose Camden, would make them, the biggest question mark of the slate in terms of mass entry leverage. English is hard. But matchup wise, how do you not like him? This Tigers bullpen definitely very beatable. The starters very beatable, and this is a high octane, high upside offense, even without George Springer. So I'd be in on the Blue Jay stack no matter what. And all the pitchers we've talked about are 8K punts, 5K,
right.
Hernandez. So it just, the lineups would just kind of leave you that salary left over to grab the Blue Jays. So if you are like my buddy Greg, you hate chalk, maybe you push back here and just bet on the failure rates. But I think pre-flop they'd be my favorite stack to put up a couple touchdowns.
I think there's ways to incorporate them, and Adam talks a lot about this. Ship My Money DFS, one of the best players there is. How to incorporate a team and find some lower owned bats within the lineup, how to combine some guys with 3-mans or 2-mans as opposed to just full stacking, trying to capture some of that upside. And for sure, I think playing Vlad Guerrero Jr. at any spot, he's 6,200. It doesn't fit in the easiest out of all the bats. He should be the highest owned bat. And right now he's not. He's falling into the middle of the pack, 27.1%. It's a big number. But if you're talking purely upside for tournaments, I think finding a way to play him, maybe another bat alongside of him, whether that's going to be like a Corey Dickerson coming in underneath 20% owned. I really like getting to him, Lourdes Gurriel as well. I think there's ways to find 2- and 3-man combos they can be lower owned than the Bichette, Simeon, and Teoscar Hernandez, who are all coming in 33% plus. So have you thought about any of that? Is there kind of anything you're doing specifically with your stacks to just avoid a ton of that ownership and still get exposure to probably the best spot on the slate?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the beauty of baseball, is even if you just pluck the top guy from a stack, you still have exposure to the stack and can pivot. And it's very hard to duplicate, share first place with another lineup on a slate that has more than 3 games, right? So I'm definitely a proponent of not overthinking the level of cumulative ownership. And it's not that hard to differentiate with this many games. Yesterday, my way to push back was just by not playing J-Hap, which J-Hap and Smiley were scaring me for a bit. Luckily, I wasn't a sucker and played a lot of Musgrove and Nola and had a lot of those tag teamed. But yeah, that would be one of the avenues I look at today. If you look at one of the top pitchers that are 30-40%, you disagree with it, and you push back on him, and then just get a little different in a couple of spots. It's easy to be unique, even if you are gravitating towards the top cumulative own stacked.
All righty. And then going to some of these other teams on the bottom end, there's some points of leverage to be had just about everywhere on this slate. We've only got 4 teams with negative leverage. If you're not playing St. Louis and you're not playing Toronto and you're not playing the cheap Miami bats against Gutierrez, you basically have exposure to the entire board and you can find some leverage. For me, I'm siding with Houston big time. I mean, they put up 15 runs yesterday up against a good pitcher in Gilbert, or a guy who's been surviving, should I say, since he debuted here this season with the Seattle Mariners. I think this is another great spot for them going up against Tyler Anderson. I don't believe in Tyler Anderson whatsoever. I understand that he can maybe limit some of the damage here, but 5.1 implied runs, you get some power even in the back end with Jake Myers, Taylor Jones, Winyard. We've got some guys there 1 through 8. I really like this Houston team. Do you like them? Is there any other team that you're really kind of going to heavier on this slate?
Now, I'm actually surprised that the Astros numbers, both top stack percentage and ownership, are actually this low. First of all, I'm still not sure how Tyler Anderson's tickets arrived. I don't know how his family got tickets to the game, but they did. So respect for them. But yeah, the Astros full stack is definitely going to be top 3 for me. So that's a spot where I'm way over the field. And I've been there the last couple of days. Maybe the slot machine is done spitting out quarters for a bit, but this team is pretty doggone good. And really all throughout this lineup, even Taylor Jones was the key to the slate yesterday for the Astros. And he was
0.2% owned in some stuff yesterday. And then you got that other dude who ended up filling in. McCormick got scratched. And I was like, well, I'll play a little bit of him. And he just tripled. He had a triple double RBI. I thought he was going to kind of catch up on Jose Ramirez. I mean, it was a crazy game. I thought I had a chance to win the $4 and the $18. And I was pretty excited about that. I didn't want to steal away from the live final thunder. So that's why God wouldn't allow me to win it. And Carlos Correa put up 6 and Buster Posey put up 0, 0 for 5 for the best National League batting average. But I digress. Continue on.
Taylor Jones, much like Jake Myers, these were guys that were raking in the minors, and they come up and in their debut spots, they break the slate and become absolute nutty plays. So I'd be right back on them. The Astros, the stack is already pretty low owned, but these bottom of the lineup guys, Jake Myers, Taylor Jones, who are batting over 300 against lefties in the minors. Tyler Anderson is definitely someone that can allow an elevated average, a lot of power. That could be a way to differentiate a Blue Jay stack, but just generally speaking, the full-on slot Astro stack would be a high priority for me, and I'm probably listing them a little bit higher in terms of top stack percentage than the tool right now. And I definitely hope they stay at 2% owned or 3% owned, because I would probably land around 15.
That's kind of exactly where I'm landing on right now. I think they're a great spot to be going. I think Atlanta, if people are going to be scared off of that right now, if you're willing to incur some risk, and I'm more than happy to be risky, and I'm more than happy to, try to take some of those shots to really jump above and away beyond the field here with Atlanta bats, just because I think the opportunity, if they get to that bullpen, or if they get to even John Means here, who as you said, it's the best pitcher. I just really think Atlanta might get a little bit more overlooked as we get closer to lock here and people are freaking out. I mean, there's already positive leverage to be had by going to them. 3.3 points of positive leverage comparatively, only 11.6% ownership share and 15% top stack potential. So I think for me, the path is a lot of Atlanta, a lot of Houston, and kind of taking some scatter shots. Let's talk about these other two teams that are getting a bunch of ownership here. And that is Miami. And I'm just never going to play the top value team, should I say. I don't even really see what is the reasoning for them getting 9.3% ownership. I understand Gutierrez and I understand the ballpark, but do you have any Miami Marlins interest here with only a 4 implied run total in this spot?
So it's one of those spots. If you're not playing Gutierrez, why? Like it's and that's not a vote of confidence for Gutierrez. But the why is probably because he's not a big strikeout guy and he's in the riskiest park on the slate. Well, then why aren't you taking a couple shots of Marlins bat? So Jesus Aguilar is probably the more household comfy click. Miguel Rojas can hit the baseball here and there. I think I'm on the Marlins stack. 9% might be a little bit elevated for my liking. I'd probably be in at like 6%. But I feel like that's a weird spot to not make a decision. If you're not going to play Gutierrez, it's because you think the Marlins maybe give them some problems. And if you're not going to play the Marlins because you think they're bad, then maybe AK Gutierrez ain't the end of the world. So I'm personally, seesawing this game and having a little bit of both. But from even a 20 entry standpoint, I'd probably make a decision and be on one side because the park is the park. Right.
All right. Any other stack that you really want to be talking about here? I guess St. Louis is a team that we haven't brought up. I'm not going crazy with them. I'm a little bit below the field here. We're getting 8.4% ownership share. We have a 5.5% top stack potential. It's coming in around middle of the board. I think there's some power to be had for sure. There's no question. Paul Goldschmidt, Arenado, 5.2 implied runs, 86-degree weather, not the greatest ballpark, but Steven Brault, not the best pitcher. So I think it makes some sense there. Is there anything else that you really want to touch on before we move on?
I feel like the Cardinals just keep coming in over-owned. And ironically, the one time they do well is against Brandon Woodruff. But yeah, I don't like the ownership for the Cardinals, but I guess I get it.
Yeah, I guess I get it too, but it's not going to be something I'm going nuts about. It's not going to make or break my day, should I say. Yoshi Tsutsugo might make or break my day because I'm just joking. That was a joke. I don't want to do that. No. Went yard again, though, last night. Went yard again. If it's not that if you've only had 2 home runs with your team, but I digress. That is the top stacks for us here. Play Houston, play Atlanta, play all of these teams that are getting such positive leverage, which is half the board. And our ownership, somebody in there is saying that our ownership, maybe it's wrong. It is usually the best in the industry. It is almost always going to be more accurate than anything else that anybody else is putting together. I know for a fact, having talked to some of the guys here, that I'm getting to hang out with Buzzard, getting to hang out with Eddie Lai, which he's one of the coolest dudes ever. I got to say, just throwing that out there in case he's watching, just sucking up to our tech guy. The ability that they have to put the ownership together, there is so much that goes into it. And I'm telling you, it is the best in the industry and it's not remotely close. So I trust it. Miami's the one where I'm just kind of thinking that maybe people kind of shy away. I keep refreshing it, thinking we might get an update, but as it stands right now, that is the top stacks. And we'll get to bats here in a second. But first, OddsShopper. OddsShopper is the best way to basically know exactly what you're betting, to know exactly how you're going to approach it, because shopping for lines is the number one way that you can be a profitable sports bettor. Finding the best numbers, putting in that time, and OddsShopper makes it so easy. So find the best line for the game or your player prop and have the edge to beat the house. Head over to oddshopper.awesemo.com, where we compile the best bets for game lines, player props, and player and team futures, all updated in real time. And even better, OddsShopper now has expected win percentage and return on investment included for every MLB player prop bet available, which is derived straight from Awesemo's MLB player projections. So you can find the best odds for everything every single day. I want to talk about the MLB power rankings and sports betting model. We have all of these incredible features in order to kind of plug into OddsShopper to find the best odds and be able to play them repeatedly, finding an edge every single day. And if you're not doing it, you're definitely missing out on free money over a long period of time. Looking at our player props tool as well, having those kind of edges, if you did our NBA player props tool, you'd know how profitable that was. The MLB player props tool is equally as incredible. And looking at Frankie Montas, who, is not here on this slate at the moment, Reynaldo Lopez, Framber Valdez, a couple of these guys, taking some unders specifically on the Lopez and Valdez spots, 34% expected ROI, 46% expected ROI. Those are large numbers. They are hard to find. Like, those are larger numbers than you'll find for most strikeout props. So take advantage of that as well. Good stuff. The MLB player props home runs tool. I'm just telling you, that's the future. That's going to be how you sustain a bankroll, how you build a bankroll. Check out all of those lovely things along with OddsShopper. And thank you so much to all the guys working so hard behind the scenes to make that such a valuable tool. All right, let's go to some individual hitters. Who is going yard tonight, Gundacker? Who is at the top of the year bomb detector?
What what was that, bro? That was
I'm saying yours. So your bomb detector.
That's like a manatee mating call. That's how they're not extinct. You're wondering how? That's how Eric walks around bodies of water doing that too. I got a lot of Braves up here, so hopefully that game gets in. But
Somebody just said I last watched Major League Baseball in 1998. I was at the Rockies game 2 days ago. That seems very uninformed. So that is a terrible, terrible opinion. Coors Field is right yonder way, but good times. Continue on.
I got a lot of Braves here at the top for me, so hopefully that game does play. Adam Duvall, Jorge Soler, guys that I do kind of find myself privy to. Obviously, Ozzie Albies against the lefty. I'm in on that. So I would really like that game to play. And like I said, if Means got the boot early because of weather, that would actually make me feel a little bit better. So I like all of the Atlanta bats almost individually. Past that, some isolated, interesting numbers on the bomb detector. A couple of them are Patrick Wisdom and Frank Schwindel. Low sample on both the hitter and the pitcher, but if they can beat the strikeout, they definitely have put the ball in the air and over the fence. And then Jose Altuve, I've got a nice rating on him. Salvador Perez is always going to look good. So those are a couple names that are sticking out to me on the bomb detector.
So on the bomb detector as well, for me, I don't have a bomb detector in the way you have a bomb detector, but what I have is the ability to look at Chris Archer and know that he has given up some hard and high contact here in the past. Obviously, it's a good ballpark for him, but Luis Robert is hitting in the 2-hole today, and I can't think of a batter that I like more for tournament purposes at his current ownership. If you're trying to get away with a one-off that has crazy amount of upside, he runs, he hits, he does all of the things well. Luis Robert here in the 2-hole. I'm not sure what that ownership. Let me refresh that because I'm starting to think that he might be my favorite tournament play as a one-off and need to include him more. Oh, yeah, I do. 6.5%. Just jam him. I know it's not the best ballpark, and Chris Archer, not a dude we want to pick on too much. I mean, he was really bad at the end of his last couple stints, so maybe we do. I'm happy to go to him. How do you feel about him on this slate?
I don't really see the matchup itself standing out as anything incredible, but I do think that the price point for the batting second is pretty valuable. I wish Tim Anderson was in front of him to be a higher OBP guy than Cesar Hernandez, but sure. I don't know if you just like pulled a name out of your hat to project a homer. I don't really see it, but I don't hate it.
Oh, I mean, come on now. I mean, I'm looking at my sheet, 444 expected slugging. 42.3% hard hit percentage. Was sensational. You know, he's one of the top prospects and 24 years old, kind of just going to keep coming alive here. Some of his max exit velocity, when he hits it, it goes hard and far for sure. Last season, 462 expected slugging. I just really like him as a player. No question about it. Like his long-term prospects. Why not him in the 2-hole underneath 10%? A guy who also has speed upside. So I really like it for sure. But just wanted to touch on him. Of course, you can go to guys like Naquin, 2.9K or over on DK today. That's just a wrong kind of price for him.
Yeah.
Definitely been alive. 88 degrees there up against Alcantara, a great pitcher. But I think that he's another guy that if you're looking for some leverage here for some of these one-offs, I want to target some guys with some serious upside. And I think Robert and I think Naquin. How about anybody else for you kind of in the mid tier?
I like the Naquin spot. I definitely think his price needs to catch up with him. Putting him in the top of the order has been nice. I like the punts there on the Astros. I'm really trying to pinch some pennies. As far as like mid-tier guys that might swing the bat for a little bit of power and might go a little bit lower owned. I do think, we're just kind of getting tunnel vision on the Atlanta side if that game plays. But Tuki Toussaint definitely has a wide range of outcomes to where if he's not bringing it, he's throwing balls and he allows power to righties. So maybe Trey Mancini can get into one. And then also Santander. One of the greatest first names in all of baseball, hit a pair of bombs anoche. And, he's still, I don't know what he's got to do to get a price point that's respectable. He's literally their DH. And every slate is like 2K. And today's moved himself up to 3K. But if he's batting cleanup in this spot, it should be plus. If the game plays, it should be plus hitting environment. So I don't mind a couple of these Orioles bats, but Mancini and Santander kind of stick out specifically.
Okay, I like them as well. Everybody hit that like button. We got to get close. We're getting close to De Niro range. We're getting there. We're getting there slowly. But let's get that thing over 250 so we can get that as our sign off. That is my favorite part of my Sunday. That's sad to say. That almost sounds like I'm not going to win, but I'm definitely going to win today. I've got the lineups here. I'm feeling good about this. I'm uploading them. You should probably start uploading too. We've got 14 minutes. We've got all the lineups out. So let's take advantage. Well, we still have the Milwaukee one, I guess, that we're waiting on, but I digress. That's what we got News God for. He's keeping you apprised of everything, including this Atlanta and Baltimore weather, which is going to be something important. And I keep checking on it. Nothing changed here. We don't have any kind of a delay to start off here in the top end, waiting for some of those notifications as well. But just kind of waiting in the wings. Get your questions in. Let us know. Removing the tarp, going to play in Washington. What is going on with this? I don't know what that means. Good times. Top two pitchers on this slate. All right, we can bring that up. Who are your two highest exposed pitchers as you're looking at your board today?
Adam Wainwright's one. I'm just going to take the floor with him and hope we tap into a little bit of upside. Past him, I tell you, man, Brad Keller and Chris Booth, it's not good. I like Hernandez is really like, if I miss out on the third random bum pitcher dropping 30 against the Cubs, it's on me at that point, right? So I might be looking at a little bit of Hernandez as my SP2 in terms of personal ownership at 5,900, and putting him in Wainwright, I have like no problems making lineups that I want. So that's probably gonna end up being my 1 and 2. I gotta stress that Hernandez is not somebody I think is inherently good, but the Cubs are ridiculously bad. And I've seen all I need to see the last 2 days. So this will definitely, with that said, I'm definitely having a 2% Cubs stack in my back pocket just to hedge it. But at 5,900, you get such a soft landing spot. If he does just get you like 10 to 15 at that point, he's a Joey Votto, and I'll take the double digit fantasy points, hopefully.
Yeah, we're playing a game of range of outcomes, and I think it's well within the outcomes that Chicago Cubs go off in this spot, especially only at 3.4% ownership, 6.2% top stack potential. That's actually the fifth highest on the board. So there's definitely some positive leverage to be had there. No question about it. Pretty easy to play anybody that you really want, 1 through 5, 1 through 6. I don't want to play Jason Hayward. I just always click his name off. If Jason Hayward wins this slate, I quit. I'll literally walk back to Los Angeles from here. I'll just skip my flight altogether and go on a spirit walk. But I'm looking at my board right now as well. I think we're both on the same page when it comes to Adam Wainwright. I want to, in these last 12 minutes, play some Tukey if they're going to start this thing off. But right now, I'm getting off of some more of the Steven Matz. I'm going to some more Gutierrez. I think I had kind of touched on that a little bit. And I think that I'm going to kind of stick with that. And I don't want to do it. But I think Carlos Hernandez is kind of at 5,900. If he can kind of just get by in this spot, which is the reason we're seeing that ownership there. He's gone 6. He's gone at least 6 innings, 3 of his last 4 outings. Maybe he's turning a corner somewhere there. Not a crazy amount of upside, but I think you can do worse for underneath 6K on the slate in order to get to some of the big bats we really want to play. Anything else that really sticks out to you with pitching?
No, like I said, I think Alcantara is an interesting an actual skilled pitcher that's not getting ownership. Matchup's really, really tough. So I'm seesawing that game. But if we looked up later and Alcantara has himself a shot at 30 DKP, I'm not surprised. So I'll have probably double the field on him. That's it.
Okay. That's more than fine. The pitching is so bad on this slate. It is garbage. We can just throw it all in the wash and hopefully it comes out nice and clean. We'll see what happens here. But I really like, as far as the stacks go, we had talked about it, Atlanta. I'm going to be very heavily invested in, and hopefully that game can just get through, just get there for us. And then I win the game theory award, which I don't know what I can cash that in for. Maybe you get a free beer at the end of the night. That'd be all right with me. But
is that one of like, do you need a speech? I don't know how this works.
No. So it's just like the game theory award where it's like, hey, I should win all the money because I did the best game theory thing, even though that doesn't win you anything.
Yeah. I do that when I play like Brandon Woodruff against the Cardinals, but like, I don't know, one of my Pirates bats homers. I'm like, I told you guys.
Yeah. See, there you go. Charlie Guwap, have a fantastic day, you lovely human being, you. On the way out, we've got 10 minutes. Check out our Awesemo Fantasy Football Draft Kit as well. We've got season-long best ball fantasy leagues. If you've been checking out Underdog Fantasy, so much fun to be playing over there. And now we have the Draft Kit, the Draft Wingman that you can purchase right now. Get a $35 credit for Underdog and FFPC leagues by signing up right now. We've got the best ball rankings, stacking guide, trade value chart, so much more coming out all the time. But that tool, that Draft Wingman, is incredible. I've been using it for a lot of my best ball drafts here now, and I guarantee you it will help you make better drafts. It will help you have an edge in those contests, and you can get it for 33% off when you use the promo code WR. So wide receiver at checkout. Less than $10 for everything we have to offer for season long and best ball. Just click the link in the description of this video to activate that offer. I cannot possibly tell you enough how incredible it is with the PPR, half point PPR, standard leagues. If you're playing Yahoo, if you're playing DraftKings, FanDuel, best balls, if you're playing anything over there, check out that draft kit. It is just a steal at that price, under $10 when you're using that promo code WR. So please be doing that. All right, let's close this thing out. Anything that you're noticing with your lineups? We've got 8 minutes to go. Anything that's really different than you were expecting? Is there a stack you're getting to a little bit more? I got to tell you, Alec Mills is starting to sneak into my pool, and I'm not liking it right now. So I've got to fix this. But go ahead and talk about stacks while I'm doing that.
Yeah, I think Mills is a contact guy, but this Royals lineup does give you a little bit of strikeouts and the pitcher spot, losing the DH. So it wouldn't stun me if at 6,600 he even if he just beat Hernandez by 5 DKP. I don't think it's crazy, but I don't personally even have him in my player pool. I had to manually adjust projections on Jake Myers and Taylor Jones at the bottom of the Astros lineup. A lot of algorithms may not have enough sample size to project them as favorably, but I think those guys are really strong value plays already in one of my favorite stacks going against the lefties. So I did have to do that to make sure I get a lot of that, and I'm very, very aggressive on those two guys. Tyler Naquin is kind of not a secret anymore. So if he pops up extremely high owned, I don't mind maybe cutting some of that into some of those lesser owned Astros bats. And then I don't have any Reynaldo Lopez because of his lefty splits. But before Nelson Cruz joined this Rays lineup, they were on the struggle bus. So maybe that's something to watch for. If Cruz is going to be down with the Rona, maybe a pitcher coming up might be really fun to play against the Rays. But I don't think Lopez is that guy, pal. I don't think he's that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy for sure. God, I love that video. Except for that dude seems like he's an absolute jerk face. But Reynaldo Lopez, I'm not on because I'm worried about the pitch count. He only had 66 pitches against Oakland, put up 21.5 DraftKings points. That is called efficiency, people. 1.08 ERA and limited sample, 0.72 whip. Not a pitcher I want to be taking a ton of chances against. Brendan Lau for sure is going to get some ownership every single slate, and deservedly so. But if Reynaldo Lopez can get to 75 plus pitches, maybe he comes into play there. But I don't want to be trying to take shots on that for sure. As you said, though, that Tampa Bay Rays lineup without Nelson Cruz could be in a lot of trouble here going forward. I don't see anything with this Baltimore game. I'm just going to play it. And whatever happens there. I know that that's just terrible analysis. I'm trying to tell you what's going on. But that's all I see.
It's just a reminder in case some of you OGs forgot. We keep the points even if we get 3 innings. So, if the Braves all homer the first time through, we're Gucci fam.
Oh my God, please. I need De Niro here on the way out. We got 5 minutes to go. Get your questions in if you're in the premium Slack and you have something that is pressing that you want Gundacker to do. If you have something that you want to ask Gundacker, maybe some life questions. I feel like you would be a fantastic life guru. I feel like you have just these positive vibes. Yeah, Jordan Klein, not in agreement. Wainwright or Sandy Hernandez. Wow. Okay. Jets World. Wainwright or Sandy or Hernandez. 2 of the 3 playing the 777 in the DK monster there. Let's go. Let's party with that. Wainwright, Sandy, Hernandez. I'm going to go Wainwright. And you can't play Wainwright, Sandy. You're going to change your entire complexion. So I'm guessing Hernandez is like a must for salary purposes. And we both love Wainwright. How about yourself, Gundacker?
Yeah, it would be Wainwright, Hernandez, but I also would assume that's going to be the chalkier decision, but I don't tend to make crazy decisions. He said it was for the 777.
Yes, sir.
Assuming there's not a decimal in that. So I probably am not pitching against the Reds. I don't feel like the ownership leverage in those contests is not as valuable in these, and you're going against the sharpest guys on the site on that one. So for me, it's probably Hernandez and Wainwright, but I would assume they might have a cumulative 80-90% ownership.
Yep. Yeah, dude, it's just crazy. Let's see what we got here. We've got a couple questions coming in right now. We've got where did that go? I don't know. We've got 4 minutes. I'm making sure you getting lineups in. Make sure you get your lineups in. We're ready to rock. Let's see. Yeah, nothing else anybody else is throwing in. Pretty lax, pretty chill. We're at 226 likes. We got to get there. 4 minutes for the De Niro sign off. Otherwise, you don't get the De Niro sign off, and that's going to make me sad, and it's going to make Gundacker sad. You don't want to see Gundacker sad because that is just a lovable face over there.
I look like Winnie the Pooh. My shirt will come up halfway above. I got a hand in a jar of honey. I just have jars of honey.
Oh, honey bear loves honey. Oh, is it horrible? Yeah, no, we need to get this done. Good Lord. I don't even know what's going on.
That sentence just got us removed from the algorithm.
Yeah,
I need you to put some words behind my name.
The honey bear loves honey for sure, though. Gritchick, Dickerson. All right. I've got this one in. Got my last lineup to finish up there. Cool. Made sure we got that. Let's see. So we got that. I don't really know what else to say. I mean, this is just, we have gone so rogue and I'm so here for it. It's all right. Ooh, did we get there in the likes department? I think we did. I got to refresh this. Nope. Still not. Definitely 239. 239. We need 11 of you people, 11 of you lovely people watching on your phone, tuning in. Loco's out of here. Oh, have a good day, everybody. The best. Loco's the absolute best. Charles Morant, great show. I thought so too. Go ahead and hit that like button so we get Gundacker out of here. I need it so bad.
The thing with De Niro, dog, I don't have a De Niro voice, so it's just like me.
Yes, you do. It's much better than what you expect. Like it's much better than what you're selling it to
what's
be right
happening?
Now.
Oh, it's like The Mask.
Did you quote The Mask?
I did not, but I'm doing it. You chat, win all the money today, huh? See, it just looks like there's sun in my eye at this point. It's just not.
Oh my God. I'm going back and forth between the iPad and here. I don't know. I just love you so much. This is incredible. The De Niro's as good as it gets. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We got 2 minutes here. I guess, we should probably just get out of here. Should we just get out of here, Jordan Klein? Yes. Okay. I got the nod that we're ready to rock. We have no questions. We're waiting on weather. There's no best of luck. Our pets' heads are falling off. It's fine. But that's Gundacker. Do you have any final words for the people on the way out of here, my dude?
Nelson Cruz is down. Yankees are going to catch him, run down, take the division. So take your Yankees futures and invest all of your Bitcoin in them. Don't do that.
I hate the Yankees so much. Anyway, but best of luck to your team. The Minnesota Twins are just going to go enjoy Cancun in about a month here. They're going to have a blast. I'm Eric Lindquist. He's Gundacker. He's the best. Hope you enjoyed. Best of luck today, everybody.